Chapter 738. Chao Yan's death. Le Hantian understood Zhuowen's character very well. It would be better to have him commit suicide than to have him forfeit. Therefore, it was unrealistic to have Zhuowen forfeit. Feng Tian, who was sitting on the right side of the table, revealed a smile. He was originally worried that Zhuowen was too strong and that Feng Yong would have a hard time dealing with him. Now that Zhuowen had been struck by Feng Yong's halberd and suffered heavy injuries, Feng Yong was unharmed. This time, Feng Yong's chances of victory were undoubtedly much higher. In the arena, Feng Yong slowly stood a few dozen meters in front of Zhuowen. He crossed his arms and looked at Zhuowen with ridicule. On the other side of the arena, Chao Yan, who had escaped from Zhuowen's palm, did not leave the arena. Instead, he stared at Zhuowen. With a cough, Zhuowen slowly stood up. He stared at Feng Yong and coldly said, as expected of the number one genius of the Feng family. You can even use such despicable methods in such a shameless manner. Your skin has already reached the level of shamelessness. Ha! Winner takes all. Winner takes all. Zhuowen, what's the point of saying all this? The right to speak will always be in the hands of the winner. No matter what you say, you will still lose in the end. Feng Yong did not take Zhuowen's words seriously. The ridicule in his eyes became even more intense. Right now, he was already in an invincible position. Brother Chao. You've already lost. Why are you still on the arena? Feng Yong's gaze suddenly converged on Chao Yan, who was not far away. Chao Yan's eyelids twitched. He indifferently said, Brother Feng. This kid humiliated me just now. I can't swallow this grudge. I won't fight with you for the strongest person in this group. You and I will work together to kill this kid. I want to kill this kid with my own hands. Speaking until here, the killing intent in Chao Yan's eyes seemed to have materialized. He stared at Zhuowen with an extremely unfriendly gaze. He must kill this little bastard Zhuowen with his own hands. He, Chao Yan, would never forget the humiliation just now. If he didn't kill Zhuowen with his own hands, he wouldn't be able to rest easy. So that's how it is. Since Brother Chao is so enthusiastic, it would be unsatisfactory if I don't agree. Let's join hands and kill this kid on this stage. Feng Yong raised his eyebrows. He did not expect Chao Yan to suggest joining forces. It seemed that Chao Yan's hatred for Zhuowen was very deep. Although Feng Yong had successfully ambushed Zhuowen with his halberd, causing Zhuowen to be injured, he was after all a centipede that was dead but not paralyzed. Feng Yong was still very wary of Zhuowen. Now that Chao Yan had taken the initiative to join forces, Feng Yong's confidence in dealing with Zhuowen had increased by a few %. Why wouldn't he, Feng Yong, be happy? Feng Yong and Chao Yan did not purposely lower their voices when they spoke. Hence, everyone in the square heard them clearly. Zhuowen had already been injured by Feng Yong's sneak attack. Now, Feng Yong actually wanted to join forces with Chao Yan to deal with Zhuowen. This battle had already lost its fairness. However, no one stepped forward to say anything. Emperor Qing had said that this battle would use an elimination system. No matter what method one used, as long as one eliminated the other contestants and became the strongest in the group, it would be fine. Moreover, the Silver Dragon General, who was in charge of Arena number 8, did not say anything. Hence, no one would say anything. Silver Dragon General. Chao Yan has already been eliminated by me, right? Don't tell me that he can still stay on the stage and join forces with Feng Yong. Zhuowen's gaze turned even colder as he stared at the Silver Dragon General not far away. Humph. If you think it's unfair, you can forfeit. I didn't force you to stay on the stage. The Silver Dragon General snorted coldly, ignoring Zhuowen's opinion. Zhuowen took a deep breath. Although he knew that the Silver Dragon General was completely biased towards Feng Yong, Zhuowen's heart was still filled with anger when he heard the Silver Dragon General's words. Zhuowen. It's useless even if you forfeit today. You're dead anyway. Do you really think that you can walk out of the imperial capital alive? Chao Yan's eyes were filled with coldness as he spoke coldly. His hatred for Zhuowen was like a huge wave. He wanted nothing more than to tear Zhuowen into pieces right now. Even if he could not kill Zhuowen this time, he would not let Zhuowen go. Chao Yan. I didn't plan to kill you. Unfortunately, your mouth stinks even more than dog fart. A person like you is simply scum. Zhuowen snorted coldly. He silently circulated the origin energy in his body. With a stomp of his foot, he suddenly shot towards Chao Yan at his maximum speed. Brother Feng, let's kill this guy together. Chao Yan's eyes narrowed when he saw Zhuowen rushing towards him. He shouted loudly, but he did not charge forward. Instead, he took a small step back and stood behind Feng Yong. Zhuowen was a peak ultimate 7-wheel emperor. Although he had been injured by Feng Yong's sneak attack earlier, he was still not someone that Chao Yan could face head-on. Therefore, he could only rely on Feng Yong. Naturally, Feng Yong saw Chao Yan's actions. However, he did not care too much about it. After all, Chao Yan was not very strong. He had never thought of relying on Chao Yan. Little bastard, you must die today. A sinister smile appeared on Feng Yong's face. With a stomp of his foot, the halberd that had been stabbed into the ground nearby immediately appeared in his hand. A terrifying aura burst out. His long hair fluttered as he also charged towards Zhuowen. Clang clang clang. The sound of metal clashing suddenly rang out. In the blink of an eye, Zhuowen and Feng Yong had collided. Countless sparks continuously spilled out in all directions from the collision between the two. The collision of the bone spear and the halberd produced a stimulating sound that was like the sound of a great bell. It resounded throughout the entire space. In just an instant, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows. Every blow was fatal and terrifying. In the eyes of the crowd, the two of them seemed to have turned into two illusory figures that could not be seen clearly at all. The only thing that could be seen clearly was the countless sparks that were produced when the two weapons collided. This proved that the two of them were engaged in an intense battle. Clang clang clang. The two of them fought from the ground to the sky, and then from the sky to the ground. The sound of metal clashing reverberated around the entire arena. It was noisy and ear-piercing. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere as the two of them clashed once again. Then, a figure fell from the sky in a sorry state and smashed into the center of the arena. Rumble! There was a loud sound like muffled thunder. A human-shaped hole was smashed into the center of the arena. A figure struggled out of it in a sorry state. When the crowd looked over, they were shocked to discover that this sorry figure was actually Zhuowen, who had been extremely powerful just a moment ago. At this moment, Zhuowen was in an extremely sorry state. His hair was disheveled, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His qi and blood were boiling. Although Zhuowen's physical body was indeed very strong, Feng Yong's sneak attack earlier had caused Zhuowen to suffer immeasurable injuries. When Zhuowen was fighting with Feng Yong, he had been suppressing his injuries. This also caused Zhuowen to be unable to display his full strength. He had been suppressed by Feng Yong all this time. Earlier, Feng Yong had found a flaw and broken through his defense, mercilessly knocking him down from the sky. Puchi! After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Zhuowen's gaze turned extremely gloomy. Now, he only felt the qi and blood in his body boiling. His entire body was exhausted, and the suppressed injuries were showing signs of worsening. Whoosh! Not long after Zhuowen landed on the ground, the sound of something breaking through the air came from the other side of the arena. When Chao Yan, who was originally watching, saw Zhuowen's sorry state, he did not hesitate to rush over to Zhuowen. Zhuowen! I, Chao Yan, am not someone you can afford to offend. Since you have offended me, then you will not be able to escape this calamity. Now, die! Chao Yan instantly flew above Zhuowen. A cold light flashed out from his sleeve. He actually took out a long sword with a cold light and pierced towards Zhuowen's forehead. Looking at such a shameless Chao Yan, the killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes became even denser. This Chao Yan's shamelessness was something Zhuowen had never seen before in his life. Boom! Zhuowen waved his right hand. The green coffin behind him buzzed and flew out, blocking in front of him. Ding! Chao Yan's long sword touched the surface of the green coffin, and then his entire body stopped. This green coffin is so hard. Chao Yan's pupils constricted, and he could not help but whisper. Whoosh! A bone spear suddenly shot out from behind the green coffin, catching Chao Yan off guard. Under Chao Yan's astonished gaze, it instantly pierced through his abdomen, causing a large amount of blood to spurt out. You actually dare to kill me? Chao Yan's gaze stared at the bone spear in his abdomen, and he still muttered to himself in disbelief. A despicable and shameless person like you deserves to die. You deserve to die. Zhuowen's voice was gloomy and cold like the winter moon, and every word resounded in Chao Yan's ears. Chapter 739. Defeat. Feng Yong. Chao Zhi's face turned even uglier. One could imagine how Chao Zhi felt after seeing Chao Yan die in front of him. Lu Hantian. Don't force me to make a move, Chao Zhi said sinisterly. Oh. You want to make a move? Come, come, come. I will accompany you to the end. Lu Hantian rolled up his sleeves and sneered. A terrifying aura poured out of Lu Hantian's body, and cracks appeared in the space around the table. Chao Zhi's eyes narrowed when he felt Lu Hantian's terrifying aura. He was shocked and said, Heavenly Venerate. Just the aura that flowed out was enough to cause the surrounding space to crack. This was not something an ordinary fourth Venerate could do. Chao Zhi's face turned ugly. Lu Hantian's strength was beyond his expectations. Although he was the head of the Chao family and was also a fourth Venerate, he had only reached the third level of the fourth Venerate, the Golden Venerate. He was still one step away from the Heavenly Venerate. Come, come, come. I am right here. Let's play. Lu Hantian's current appearance was no different from a hoodlum. He rolled up his sleeves and waved at Chao Zhi provocatively. This scene made the other almighties roll their eyes. This Lu Hantian was too weird. How could a Heavenly Venerate not have the demeanor of a Heavenly Venerate? All right. The two of you can stop messing around. Come back. The Qing Emperor finally spoke from the center of the table. Although his voice was soft, it was like thunder in everyone's ears. It was shocking and ear-piercing, causing everyone's minds to buzz. As soon as the Cyan Emperor spoke, Lu Hantian and Chao Zhi no longer dared to make a fuss and returned to their respective seats. Chao Zhi's gaze was extremely cold as he stared at Zhuowen's figure in the arena. His face was ferocious. Chao Yan was his great-grandson and the most talented person among the many disciples of the Chao family. If Chao Yan did not die, he would definitely reach the fourth Venerate realm and might even surpass his senior. But now, Chao Yan had been killed by Zhuowen. All of Chao Zhi's hopes were dashed. He hated Zhuowen to the core and wished he could cut Zhuowen into pieces. From the moment Chao Yan took the initiative to attack Zhuowen to Zhuowen's death, it was in the blink of an eye. Even Feng Yong, who was floating in the air, did not expect that Zhuowen. You killed Chao Yan. Feng Yong still couldn't believe it and couldn't help but ask. Feng Yong. Feng Yong. Feng Yong. Feng. Zhuowen's eyes were bloodshot as he stomped his feet. The side effect of the blood-sucking great skill had already appeared. Chao Yan's resentment after his death entered Zhuowen's body and turned into an endless baleful aura. Waves of blood-red baleful aura gushed out from the countless pores on Zhuowen's body. They were like blood-red bubbles that surrounded Zhuowen. At this moment, Zhuowen was like a wild beast. What a terrifying baleful aura. At the edge of the arena, the silver dragon general narrowed his eyes as a trace of astonishment appeared on his face. The baleful aura gushing out from Zhuowen's body was even more terrifying than that of a border general like him. The silver dragon general could not help but feel that it was inconceivable. Boom! Zhuowen suddenly slapped the green coffin. The green coffin, which was about 10 feet in size, suddenly crashed to the ground and blocked in front of Zhuowen. Creak! In an instant, Zhuowen opened the demon-suppressing green coffin by a third. A terrifying pressure poured out. Under this pressure, countless rocks in the arena floated up as if weightless. Feng Yong. Get down here and accept your death. Feng Yong. Get down here and accept your death. Zhuowen shouted loudly. His voice was like thunder that exploded in the air. Countless echoes resounded in the air above the arena, causing many people in the surroundings to feel a sense of pride and passion as if they were facing death unflinchingly. Feng Yong narrowed his eyes as he stared at Zhuowen below. He was still somewhat bewildered. The more he looked at Zhuowen, the stranger he felt. Clearly, this kid was struck to the ground by him. He should be more injured than before. Why did his complexion look better than before? How could Feng Yong know that Zhuowen possessed the blood-sucking great skill that the blood demon had imparted to him? It could instantly absorb the blood essence of living beings to quickly replenish his body and speed up his recovery. Now that Zhuowen's injuries were much better than before, and the injuries in his body had been completely suppressed, Zhuowen naturally wanted to take revenge on Feng Yong. Humph. Empty bravado. Feng Yong coldly snorted. He was certain that Zhuowen was empty bravado. With a stomp of his foot, his entire body descended like a meteor. His speed soared to the extreme. Flood Dragon Halberd. With a low shout, Feng Yong instantly arrived above Zhuowen. With a shake of his right hand, ink-black energy surged out of the halberd. It actually condensed into a flood dragon several hundred feet long behind Feng Yong. Awoo! As Feng Yong's halberd descended, the massive flood dragon instantly enveloped Zhuowen's tiny figure. Humph! Advance and the proud dragon will regret. Retreat and the thistle will grow. Proud dragon style, break for me. With continuous footsteps, Zhuowen grasped the dragon-scale tyrant bone spear with both hands. The spear tilted from top to bottom. His right foot moved forward, and the tip of his foot pushed forward. An incomparably powerful aura burst forth. At this moment, it was as if Zhuowen and the dragon-scale tyrant bone spear had become one. A muffled sound like thunder resounded from the void behind Zhuowen. A terrifying dragon head descended from the void and blocked in front of Zhuowen. Rumble. The dragon head and the flood dragon instantly tore at each other. The terrifying power caused the surrounding space to tremble faintly. There was actually the sound of glass shattering. Awoo! Unfortunately, the flood dragon's power was ultimately much stronger than the dragon head. It actually shattered the dragon head and continued to dive towards Zhuowen with irresistible force. A cold light arrives first, then the spear strikes like a dragon. Subduing dragon style, strike for me. Zhuowen's spear momentum did not change. He suddenly swung the bone spear and immediately displayed the second move of the dragon-scale tyrant bone spear, the subduing dragon style. Suddenly, a monstrous dragon roar resounded. A huge coiling dragon that was hundreds of meters long coiled around Zhuowen's body, forming an impenetrable defense. In the next second, the flood dragon arrived as expected. The coiling dragon and the flood dragon collided. The dragon's roar and the flood dragon's roar rang out continuously. In the end, the two roars shattered in a terrifying explosion. Ding! When the coiling dragon and the flood dragon were destroyed, Feng Yong instantly arrived. He swung the halberd in his hand, causing countless hurricanes to fly towards Zhuowen's face. Zhuowen laughed coldly. He held the bone spear horizontally and directly blocked the halberd's attack. Your injuries. Feeling the powerful force transmitted from the bone spear, Feng Yong frowned slightly. He actually felt that Zhuowen's injuries were much better than before. The smile on Zhuowen's face widened. He held the bone spear in his right hand and once again slapped the green coffin with his left hand. Creak. The crack on the green coffin lid widened by a little. Zhuowen had opened half of it, and an even more frightening pressure than before poured out in torrents. A pair of blood-red eyes suddenly appeared from the green coffin and a strange aura slowly spread out. Feng Yong, who was in front of Zhuowen, also noticed the blood-red eyes that suddenly appeared from the green coffin. When he looked over, his body trembled and he was stunned on the spot. His eyes revealed a trace of confusion. On the high platform, when Grand Lily saw the pair of blood-red eyes in the green coffin, her beautiful eyes revealed a trace of lingering fear. Back when she was chasing after Zhuowen, she had forced Zhuowen to use these blood-red eyes. This pair of blood-red eyes was very dangerous. Even Granny Lily had almost fallen into the endless illusion of the blood-red eyes. If it wasn't for her firm will and powerful strength, she might have been killed by Zhuowen instead. The instant Feng Yong fell into the blood-red eyes, Zhuowen's spear changed direction and instantly pierced towards Feng Yong's forehead. If this attack hit, Feng Yong would definitely die. The instant the spear tip was about to reach Feng Yong's forehead, Feng Yong's eyes regained clarity and he saw the spear tip that was close at hand. Feng Yong roared angrily. He stomped his feet and retreated continuously. Unfortunately, the bone spear was like a maggot that followed closely behind Feng Yong. The distance between them was getting closer and closer. A ruthless light flashed in Feng Yong's eyes. He made a prompt decision and directly blocked in front of his forehead with his left hand. Puchi! A broken arm flew out and fresh blood splattered. Feng Yong's left arm was instantly broken. With his left arm delaying time, Feng Yong's body moved and he immediately dodged Zhuowen's fatal attack. Your reaction is quite fast. Unfortunately, you won't be able to take the next move. Feng Yong had lost an arm and his strength was greatly reduced. Now, he was no longer a match for Zhuowen. Therefore, Zhuowen was confident that this move could definitely take Feng Yong's life. Buzz! The invisible spear intent spread out. Zhuowen's body was like a spear and instantly shot out, rushing towards Feng Yong who was retreating continuously. At this moment, Feng Yong who was retreating had a sinister expression. The pain of losing an arm was not so easy to endure. Even though Feng Yong was strong, he still grimaced in pain. Whoosh! Zhuowen rushed over again. The bone spear suddenly shot out and pressed forward. This caused Feng Yong's expression to change greatly. He struck out with the halberd in his right hand, wanting to completely block Zhuowen's attack. Bang! Unfortunately, under the support of the bone spear with spear intent and Feng Yong's strength being greatly reduced due to losing an arm, Feng Yong's attack was extremely weak and the halberd was directly shattered. Puchi! The bone spear shot out again and Feng Yong's right arm was cut off at the shoulder. Fresh blood spurted out like a fountain. Ah! Zhuowen, you little bastard! With both arms broken, Feng Yong's face was ashen. This was equivalent to being a cripple. No matter how high his cultivation was, without both arms, he could no longer do anything on the road of martial arts. Whoosh! After cutting off Feng Yong's right arm, Zhuowen's bone spear once again shot out towards Feng Yong's forehead. He planned to directly kill Feng Yong with this attack. I admit defeat. I forfeit. Zhuowen, stop it right now. Looking at the bone spear that shot out once again, Feng Yong's face, which was originally ashen, was filled with fear. Admit defeat? Forfeit? It's too late now. It's better for you to die. At the moment when Feng Yong shamelessly launched a sneak attack on him, Zhuowen had already sentenced Feng Yong to death. This Feng Yong must be killed by Zhuowen. Stop! Feng Yong has already admitted defeat and you still dare to kill him. Today, this general will cripple you, this bastard who despises the law. The moment Zhuowen made his move, a loud shout suddenly sounded from the edge of the arena. Chapter 740. The strongest in the group. Zhuowen's pupils shrank when he sensed the terrifying aura behind him. His eyes were filled with coldness. The Silver Dragon General had actually attacked him in public. This was no longer a matter of favoritism. Instead, the Silver Dragon General wanted to kill him from the very beginning. With a cold snort, Zhuowen's hand seals changed. 3 pairs of lightning wings sprouted from his back, and his speed soared to the limit. He arrived in front of Feng Yong in a flash. Zhuowen grabbed Feng Yong's collar with his right hand. With a stomp of his foot, he turned into a lightning shadow and retreated. Rumble. The moment he retreated, the place where Zhuowen had been suddenly exploded, forming a huge crater that was dozens of feet wide. It was a terrifying sight. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with coldness as he looked at the huge crater. The Silver Dragon General had really planned to be ruthless. Just this attack alone had used the full strength of a peak Ultimate Emperor Realm 9th wheel. If Feng Yong had taken it head-on, he would have probably died. Zhuowen. Our Feng clan is not someone you can offend. Let me go immediately. Feng Yong only felt sullen. It was too humiliating to be held in Zhuowen's hand. However, he did not dare to act rashly. With his arms broken, he was no match for Zhuowen. If Zhuowen wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. Then did you think about letting me go when you attacked me? Zhuowen snorted coldly. Feng Yong's expression froze, but he still retorted, Zhuowen, you better think carefully. If you kill me, the Feng clan will not let you go. I have already crippled you. What's the difference between killing you and crippling you? Do you think that your Feng clan will let me go if I let you go? Zhuowen retorted with a sneer. Then what do you want? Feng Yong was both shocked and furious. He said with some fear. Zhuowen had even dared to kill Chao Yan. Feng Yong knew that Zhuowen was completely capable of killing him. At this moment, there was a hint of submission in his voice. Zhuowen no longer paid any attention to Feng Yong, who was still clamoring. His gaze focused on the Silver Dragon General, who was slowly walking out of the deep pit with a grave expression. Zhuowen. You've got some guts. Feng Yong had already admitted defeat, yet you still attacked. A person like you who looks down on the law and ignores the rules is not qualified to participate in this ranking tournament. The Silver Dragon General also noticed that Feng Yong's life was in Zhuowen's hands. His eyes hardened as he spoke in a cold voice. Defying the law. Ignoring the rules. The smile on Zhuowen's face grew even wider. This Silver Dragon General was really distorting the truth and spouting nonsense. At the beginning, Feng Yong had taken advantage of his unpreparedness to launch a sneak attack on him, and even joined forces with Chao Yan to fight him. Could it be that this wasn't disregarding the rules? In the beginning, Feng Yong had not cared. Now that Zhuowen had defeated Feng Yong, he had come out to meddle in other people's business. The Silver Dragon General's intention to side with Zhuowen was too obvious. That's right. I'm presiding over the number 8 arena, so you have to listen to me. You ignored the rules and even used cruel methods. A person like you isn't qualified to be the strongest person in the number 8 arena group, the Silver Dragon General said righteously. I'm not qualified. Could it be that you think that this trash is qualified? As he spoke, Zhuowen raised his right hand and pulled Feng Yong, who had a slightly narrowed expression, to the front as he spoke in a cold voice. Zhuowen. You little bastard, why aren't you quickly releasing Feng Yong? Suddenly, a shocked and furious voice sounded out from the table. Feng Tian stood up with a bang, his gaze staring fixedly at Zhuowen. He also did not expect that Feng Yong would actually lose miserably in the end. Moreover, both of his arms were even chopped off by Zhuowen. Needless to say, Feng Yong would become a complete cripple in the future. The person with the strongest talent in their Feng family actually had both of his arms crippled in front of everyone's eyes. This was already indirectly slapping their Feng family's face. How could Feng Tian not be furious? Moreover, Feng Yong was Feng Tian's son. Blood was thicker than water. Now that Feng Yong was in such a miserable state, how could Feng Tian not be furious? Zhuowen glanced indifferently at Feng Tian and said in a clear voice, "You want me to release Feng Yong?" Feng Tian's eyes were crimson red as he said coldly, "That's right. Little bastard, you better release Feng Yong. Otherwise, your friends, family, and everyone related to you will all die in the future. As long as you release Feng Yong, I promise to leave you with a complete corpse. I won't let you die too miserably." As soon as Feng Tian said this, Zhuowen's pupils constricted. Feng Tian's meaning was very simple and also very cruel. In other words, whether Zhuowen released Feng Yong or not, he, Zhuowen, would die. If he released Feng Yong, his friends and family would not be implicated. If he did not release Feng Yong, he and all of his friends and family would die. Whether I release Feng Yong or not, I will die. Is there something wrong with your head? Since I'm going to die, then why should I release Feng Yong? Zhuowen retorted sarcastically. This Feng Tian was so domineering. Whether he, Zhuowen, released Feng Tian or not, he, Zhuowen, would die. This was forcing him to kill Feng Yong. At this moment, Feng Yong also realized that Feng Tian's words were somewhat inappropriate. He hurriedly struggled and said, "Father. Save me, save me. Zhuowen. Why aren't you letting him go? Don't force me to make a move." Looking at Feng Yong's appearance, Feng Tian's heart faintly ached, and he said coldly to Zhuowen, "Ha! You also said that whether I release him or not, I, Zhuowen, will die. Since I, Zhuowen, am going to die, why should I let Feng Yong go?" Zhuowen sneered. As soon as these words were spoken, Feng Tian's face froze. He also realized that his words earlier were somewhat inappropriate. However, as the patriarch of the Feng family, Feng Tian naturally couldn't swallow his pride and change his words. Instead, he snorted coldly and said, "Zhuowen, you have to think clearly. Could it be that you want your friends and family to be buried with you even if you die? So long as you release Feng Yong, I won't make a move against your friends and family. Old bastard. Before you ask me to release him, can you use your brain? With your current intelligence, it's already no different from a pig." Zhuowen shook his head, and his gaze landed on Feng Yong as he said indifferently, "Feng Yong, remember. The person who killed you wasn't of my own volition. It was your father, Feng Tian, who forced me to kill you. Since I'm going to die regardless of whether I release you or not, so in my opinion, it's better to let you be buried with me." As he spoke up to hear, the mocking smile on the corners of Zhuowen's mouth became even denser. On the other hand, Feng Yong's face was filled with terror. He knew that Zhuowen had made up his mind to kill him. "Don't kill me, I." Before Feng Yong could finish his words, Zhuowen exerted force with his right hand. Instantly, a crisp cracking sound could be heard. Following this, Feng Yong's head tilted to the side, and he actually stopped breathing. Bang! Zhuowen tossed his right hand, and Feng Yong's corpse, which had died with his eyes open, flew out in a parabola shape before heavily smashing into the ground. Silence, the entire plaza was deathly silent. Only the sound of Feng Yong's corpse hitting the ground echoed endlessly throughout the plaza. Dead. The number one genius of the Feng family, Feng Yong, had died just like that. When the gazes of everyone in the plaza gathered on Zhuowen's figure, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. This Zhuowen was too ruthless. Not only did he kill the number one genius of the Chao family, Chao Yan, but he even killed Feng Yong. This could no longer be described as daring and reckless. Not only were the people in the plaza stunned, but even Feng Tian was stunned. He never thought that Zhuowen would actually dare to kill Feng Yong. On the high platform, Huangfu Wuji, Granny Baihe, and the others were also stunned. Zhuowen's final choice and method had also exceeded their expectations. On the martial stage, the Silver Dragon General was also stunned. He never thought that Zhuowen would actually kill Feng Yong, and without the slightest hesitation at all. You actually dare to kill Feng Yong in front of this general? You are courting death. The Silver Dragon General angrily roared, and an endless infernal aura erupted from his body. The Silver Dragon General turned into a bloody shadow that flew towards Zhuowen at an extremely fast speed. Looking at the Silver Dragon General rushing towards him, Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a cold light. He coldly said, "For a dead man, is it really worth it for you to attack me? Now that Feng Yong is dead, I am officially ranked in the top 10 of the Azure Emperor proclamation. Do you think that if you kill me, His Majesty the Azure Emperor will spare you?" As soon as these words came out, the originally aggressive Silver Dragon General suddenly stopped. He stood 5 meters away from Zhuowen, a hesitant look on his face. Zhuowen's words weren't without reason. Feng Yong had already been thoroughly killed by him. Without a doubt, the strongest powerhouse on the 8th martial stage was Zhuowen. Although he, the Silver Dragon General, was the one presiding over this martial stage, if he were to attack a genius that stood out from the group for no reason, what would the Azure Emperor think? If Feng Yong hadn't died, then he might have been able to obtain Feng Tian's praise. But now that Feng Yong had died in front of him, he feared that he would have to bear Feng Tian's wrath. Since this was the case, the Silver Dragon General had no reason to attack Zhuowen. This boy's methods are ruthless and decisive, and his mind is clear and sharp. His future achievements will be limitless. As he thought of this, the Silver Dragon General slowly withdrew his murderous aura. He knew very well that not only was Zhuowen strong and talented, but he was also very smart. This boy's future was limitless. If he, the Silver Dragon General, couldn't kill Zhuowen today, then he would have to bear Zhuowen's revenge in the future. However, even if he killed Zhuowen, he was afraid that he wouldn't have a good ending. Therefore, the best choice for him now was to be a bystander and not meddle in other people's business. "Can you announce the result of the 8th martial stage now?" Zhuowen asked faintly. The Silver Dragon General's eyes flickered as he announced loudly, "8th martial stage, Zhuowen wins." As he said that, the Silver Dragon General suddenly looked at Lu Long below the stage. He said indifferently, "It's just you and Zhuowen now. The two of you will fight to determine the strongest person in the group." Lu Long's face stiffened, and he hurriedly shook his head and forfeited. What a joke. Zhuowen had even killed Chao Yan and Feng Yong. He had not even reached the limits of the 7 Will King realm, so he would be sending himself to death if he went up. As a result, Lu Long admitted defeat very straightforwardly. The Silver Dragon General was not too surprised by Lu Long's admission of defeat. After witnessing Zhuowen's terrifying strength and ruthless methods, no one would be interested in fighting him at all. Since that's the case, the winner of the 8th martial stage is Zhuowen, the Silver Dragon General announced loudly. At the same time, the countless people in the surroundings were in an uproar. They stared at Zhuowen in a daze as excitement filled their faces. Chapter 741. On the Floating Platform Creek. Feng Tian clenched his fists tightly as he stared fixedly at Zhuowen, who was on the arena below. His expression was savage, and he wished for nothing more than to tear Zhuowen into pieces. However, he knew that he couldn't make a move now because Lu Hantian's cold and indifferent gaze was staring fixedly at him from the other side of the table. Feng Tian knew that if he made a move, Lu Hantian would definitely come out to stop him. His strength was on par with Chao Ji, so he was definitely not a match for Lu Hantian. Zhuowen. Feng Tian fiercely muttered Zhuowen's name as he took a deep breath and sat back down on the table while his gaze flickered. Zhuowen smoothly emerged from the 8th arena and walked towards the high platform under the lead of a soldier. He arrived at the place where Huangfu Wudao and the other 4 geniuses were. "Zhuowen. I never imagined that your strength would be so formidable. Even Chao Yan and Feng Yong were defeated by you. Guo Sheng laughed loudly as he arrived near the 5 geniuses. He arrived before Zhuowen and sized up Zhuowen with dense shock in the depths of his eyes. He still remembered that Zhuowen was utterly powerless against him when they were in Muqin County. Now, not only had Zhuowen's cultivation caught up to his, even Chao Yan and Feng Yong, 2 geniuses in the top 10 of the Azure Emperor rankings, had been defeated. The speed of Zhuowen's improvement had truly exceeded Guo Sheng's expectations. Originally, Guo Sheng thought that his improvement was already fast enough. However, he paled in comparison to Zhuowen. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled into a smile as he looked at Guo Sheng and said, "Brother Guo is too modest. Your strength is probably stronger than mine. At the very least, I'm unable to see through you now." Zhuowen was speaking the truth. He really couldn't see through Guo Sheng. There was only one explanation for this situation, and that was that Guo Sheng's cultivation was above Zhuowen's. 3 months ago, Guo Sheng had already reached the peak of the ultimate 7-will emperor stage and could easily defeat Feng Yong. Now that 3 months had passed, with Guo Sheng's talent, Zhuowen didn't believe that Guo Sheng hadn't made any breakthroughs. In other words, Guo Sheng was very likely an ultimate 8-will emperor stage expert. Humph. Little bastard, you were lucky to meet Chao Yan and Feng Yong in the group stage. If you had met me, I would have made you suffer an incomparably miserable end. An ear-piercing voice sounded out, causing Zhuowen's eyes to turn cold. He turned to look at the lofty Huangfu Wuji and lightly said, "His Highness the Second Prince is truly unparalleled in this world. Someone as insignificant as me can be killed with a flip of his hand." However, in the Peach Blossom origin diagram, His Highness the Second Prince was at the peak of the ultimate 7-will Emperor stage and I was only at the peak of the ultimate 6-will Emperor stage. There was a difference of an entire realm between us. At that time, His Highness the Second Prince threatened to kill me, but now, I seem to be standing here perfectly fine. As he spoke to hear, Zhuowen no longer spoke. Instead, he stared at Huangfu Wuji with a mocking gaze. Zhuowen's words seemed to be flattering Huangfu Wuji, but in reality, he was saying that Huangfu Wuji was clearly stronger than Zhuowen, yet he still couldn't kill Zhuowen. He was mocking Huangfu Wuji for being incompetent. You have a sharp tongue and a glib tongue. Zhuowen, you're only good at talking now. Once we truly fight, I'm afraid you'll truly regret it. Huangfu Wuji's eyes narrowed. Before he could open his mouth to refute, Grand Lily suddenly opened her mouth. Her cold voice was particularly ear-piercing to Zhuowen's ears. You're just a slut that I'm about to divorce, yet you dare to spout such nonsense in front of me? I'll give you one word. Fuck off. Zhuowen didn't even look at Grand Lily as he coldly retorted. Towards Grand Lily, Zhuowen could be considered to have a deep-seated hatred. This woman had the heart of a snake and scorpion. Back in the Peach Blossom origin diagram, she had wanted to kill him. How could Zhuowen possibly have a good attitude towards this woman? What did you say? Grand Lily was so angry that her body trembled. A terrifying aura gushed out from her body, pressuring Zhuowen. Ha! Everyone, let's not harm each other. Now that we've all successfully entered the top 10 of the Azure Emperor list, we can be considered brothers and sisters. Let's not fight and kill, okay? At the instant that Grand Lily released her terrifying aura, an even more overbearing aura swept out, directly suppressing Grand Lily's aura. Soon after, a rather gentle voice sounded out. Grand Lily's beautiful face slightly changed. She turned her head and saw a trace of a gentle smile on Murong Zhan's face. Grand Lily's eyes revealed a trace of dread. She coldly snorted and fiercely glared at Zhuowen before slowly restraining her aura. It wasn't only because of Murong Zhan, but also because this was the Golden Imperial Palace. Private fights were not allowed. Zhuowen glanced at the beaming Murong Zhan in astonishment. He nodded his head and shifted his attention to the remaining 4 arenas below. Time passed by minute. The strongest of the 4 arenas had already been filtered out. Arena number 2 was Qing Yan, arena number 5 was Qing Ming, arena number 7 was Zhu Bai, and arena number 9 was the Lightless Monk. Qing Yan, Qing Ming, and Zhu Bai were originally in the top 10 of the Azure Emperor list. Hence, Zhuowen wasn't surprised that they were the strongest of their arenas. What really surprised Zhuowen was the Lightless Monk in arena number 9. The final battle in arena number 9 was naturally between Lve Tao and the Lightless Monk. Lve Tao was ranked 15th on the Azure Emperor list, while the Lightless Monk was ranked 14th. Their rankings were close. Originally, everyone thought that this battle would be a stalemate. However, in the end, Lve Tao was defeated by the Lightless Monk in one move and was directly eliminated from the arena. Although Lve Tao's strength was much weaker than Zhuowen's, he had been extremely diligent in his cultivation for the past 3 months. His cultivation had also reached the peak of the ultimate 6-wheel Emperor realm. Arena number 9 originally didn't have any geniuses in the top 10 of the Azure Emperor list, so Lve Tao's chances of standing out were very high. However, the Lightless Monk suddenly appeared halfway and displayed his terrifying strength, directly eliminating Lve Tao. This Lightless Monk's strength is at least at the ultimate 7-wheel Emperor realm. Looking at the Lightless Monk behind Qing Yan, Qing Ming, and Zhu Bai, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. The Lightless Monk's strength had surprised him. At this point, the results of all 10 arenas had been announced. This also meant that the new top 10 of the Azure Emperor list had appeared in front of everyone. On the table, the Azure Emperor slowly stood up with a gentle smile on his face. He said in a clear voice, "Everyone has seen it. The top 10 of the Azure Emperor list have been selected. They are Huangfu Wudao, Murong Zhan, Gran Baihe, Qing Yan, Qing Ming, Zhu Bai, Huangfu Wuji, Guosheng, Zhuowen, and the Lightless Monk. First, this emperor would like to congratulate the 10 of you." When the Azure Emperor said this, everyone below the arena revealed excited expressions. The top 10 of the Azure Emperor list hadn't changed much. The only change was that Chao Yan, who was ranked 10th, and Feng Yong, who was ranked 8th, had been eliminated. Zhuowen and the Lightless Monk had been newly promoted. Of course, in this arena battle, the one who had stunned everyone the most was still Zhuowen on the 8th arena. After all, Chao Yan and Feng Yong had both been defeated by Zhuowen. From this, it could be seen that Zhuowen's strength had far exceeded everyone's expectations. Since the top 10 of the Azure Emperor list have been selected, the next step will be the top 5. Everyone should be aware of the importance of the top 5 of the Azure Emperor list. As the Azure Emperor spoke to hear, he deliberately paused. As for the 10 geniuses in front of the high platform, their eyes shined with a strange light. Even Huangfu Wudao's eyelids couldn't help but twitch, revealing the restlessness in his heart. This time, the top 5 of the Azure Emperor list would have the qualifications to participate in the entrance examination of the Excellent Divine Institute. This was a great opportunity. To the Azure Xian Empire, the Excellent Divine Institute was a colossal existence. Throughout the entire Eastern lands, the Excellent Divine Institute was an illustrious existence. Even the Blue Dragon Hall couldn't ignore its existence. If they could enter such a colossal power, it would undoubtedly be like reaching the heavens in a single bound. Just the huge amount of resources and teachers in the Excellent Divine Institute was enough to allow a cultivator to advance by leaps and bounds in a short period of time. Even the arrogant first prince, Huangfu Wudao, had a blind pursuit of the Excellent Divine Institute. He also desired to enter the Excellent Divine Institute. The Excellent Divine Institute. Among the 10, Zhuowen's eyes shone with a dazzling light. He couldn't help but feel excited. The Excellent Divine Institute was the place of his dreams that he had been looking forward to for a long time. In the Excellent Divine Institute, not only did it have the complete ice-fire sacred symbol, but it also had Mu Qinxue, whom he yearned for day and night. He, Zhuowen, had to enter the Excellent Divine Institute no matter what. This emperor will not speak any more nonsense. The battle for the top 5 will begin now. As long as you enter the top 5, you will have the qualifications to participate in the entrance examination of the excellent Divine Institute. Speaking to here, the Azure Emperor waved his sleeves. Suddenly, countless green lights descended from the sky and landed in the middle of the arena. Rumble. As the green lights descended, the 10 arenas in the middle of the arena emitted a strange green light. Following which, under the shocked gazes of the crowd, they transformed into a gigantic green arena that was a few hundred feet tall. This huge cyan fighting ring floated quietly in the air above the square, giving people a sense of awe as they looked up at it from afar. The 10 geniuses on the high platform all focused their gazes on the gigantic arena floating in the air with different expressions on their faces. This is the floating arena, the stage for the 10 of you. The rules are simple. 2-on-2 battles, survival of the fittest. However, in the battle for the top 5, you cannot kill. If anyone wants to kill, then don't blame this emperor for being impolite. Speaking to here, the Azure Emperor's tone became much more serious. The top 10 geniuses of the Azure Mystic Empire had already been chosen. They represented the highest standards of the Azure Mystic Empire. If they were to die, it would undoubtedly be a huge loss. Zhuowen and the rest naturally knew what the Azure Emperor was thinking. They all nodded their heads without any objections. Now, draw lots to choose your opponent. Finishing his words, the Azure Emperor tossed his right hand and 10 green bamboo sticks floated in the air. I'll go first. Huangfu Wudao stretched out his right hand, and a suction force swept out from his palm. Suddenly, the 10 bamboo sticks in the air were sucked into his palm. With Huangfu Wudao taking the lead, the other 9 geniuses also drew their bamboo sticks. Zhuowen was no exception. Chapter 742. Zhu Bai vs Qing Ming. Apart from Zhuowen, the other 9 geniuses all looked at the bamboo lots in their hands. Since all 10 of you have obtained the bamboo lots, the one with the A lots, please step forward. Emperor Qing said as he looked at the 10 geniuses. Immediately, 2 figures stepped forward. They were the number 1 genius of the Zhu clan, Zhu Bai, and one of the 2 legendary heroes of the Azure Dragon Branch Hall, Qing Ming. Zhu Bai and Qing Ming looked at each other before a terrifying elite aura erupted from both of them. A terrifying battle intent swept out from between the 2 of them. The 2 of you can go first. Emperor Qing said indifferently. Zhu Bai and Qing Ming nodded their heads. With a stomp of their feet, they leaped onto the green-colored stage that was floating in the air. The 2 of them faced each other from a distance on each side of the stage. Everyone in the plaza was excited when they saw Zhu Bai and Qing Ming on the arena. They never thought that Zhu Bai and Qing Ming would actually fight each other. Zhu Bai and Qing Ming were ranked 3rd on the Imperial Ranking Board, while Qing Ming was ranked 4th. Their rankings were extremely close. Moreover, Zhu Bai and Qing Ming had fought each other in the last ranking battle. Last time, Qing Ming and Zhu Bai's battle was extremely intense. Unfortunately, Qing Ming lost to Zhu Bai by a single move. They wondered if Qing Ming would be able to regain his glory and avenge his previous defeat. The 2 of us are really fated to meet again. Qing Ming, who was wearing green clothes and had a faintly discernible scholarly smile on his face, quietly stood in front of Zhu Bai and spoke somewhat helplessly. Zhu Bai's expression was cold as he looked at Qing Ming and said, Qing Ming, your cultivation technique attribute is naturally countered by me, and your cultivation cannot surpass mine. You will definitely lose this battle. Qing Ming's eyes narrowed when he heard this. He smiled faintly and said, Zhu Bai, you're too confident. You may not necessarily lose. As he spoke, Qing Ming took a step forward and a terrifying aura suddenly burst out. Countless streams of green energy coiled around Qing Ming like countless green snakes. It looked extremely strange. What terrifying strength! Qing Ming has actually reached the mid-stage of the ultimate emperor realm. His strength is so strong. Zhuo Wen, who was below the arena, narrowed his eyes when he sensed Qing Ming's powerful aura. He was shocked. Qing Ming was indeed worthy of being ranked 4th on the previous Azure Emperor rankings. His cultivation was too terrifying. In terms of cultivation, Zhuowen was not as good as Qing Ming. However, if Zhuowen revealed his level 5 complete mental strength, Zhuowen was confident that he could fight against Qing Ming. Zhu Bai shook his head. The coldness at the corners of his mouth spread even further as he said indifferently, "Mid-Ultimate Emperor stage. You've improved quite quickly, but unfortunately, my improvement isn't any worse than yours." Zhu Bai also took a step forward as he spoke. A similarly frightening aura swept out. Countless golden force spread out in a densely packed manner like small golden snakes. His aura was like a rainbow and was actually not inferior to Qing Ming's. It was yet another ultimate 8-wheel Emperor realm cultivator. The people around the arena all sucked in a breath of cold air. Zhu Bai and Qing Ming were so powerful. They were both ultimate 8-wheel emperors. Zhu Bai and Qing Ming were not very old. They were not more than 30 years old. To be able to reach the ultimate 8-wheel emperor realm at such an age, their talent was extremely terrifying even in the entire Qing Xian Empire. This was also the reason why everyone in the square was so shocked and the two of them unleashed their true auras. Boom! In an instant, Zhu Bai and Qing Ming shot out explosively and collided with each other. Countless green and gold-colored force splashed across the entire arena like raindrops that filled the sky. It was a dazzling and colorful sight. Boom! Boom! In an instant, the two of them exchanged dozens of blows in the air. Force flew everywhere and the space collapsed. The power displayed in each of their moves caused the people below to tremble. It was too terrifying. A battle between ultimate 8-wheel emperors was actually so terrifying. Qing Ming. Let's end this in one move. What's the point of fighting like this? A loud shout rang out from the battle on the arena. Then, the golden and green figures immediately separated. The one who had spoken was Zhu Bai. I was thinking the same thing. Qing Ming panted slightly. His eyes were cold as he said coldly. In the air, Zhu Bai's expression was extremely grave. He took a step forward and the aura within his body increased by several times. When he took another step, it increased by dozens of times. When he took a third step, it increased by several hundred times. In an instant, endless tearing winds filled Zhu Bai's body. The surrounding space actually shattered like glass shards. They rustled as they fell, producing crisp patter sounds. 10,000 shadows trample the heavens and earth. Zhu Bai shouted in a low voice as he suddenly took the fourth step. The aura that surged out instantly increased by nearly 1,000 times. For a time, countless flickering figures of light actually formed around his body. Qing Ming's eyes narrowed when he saw the countless shadows beneath Zhu Bai's feet. He was not to be outdone. His hands quickly formed a seal, forming a strange hand seal. Countless rays of green light shot out from the hand seal and shot into the sky. They actually pierced a crack in the space behind him. Green Emperor Seal. Rumble. Above the crack in space, a several thousand feet tall green figure suddenly stepped through the air and landed on the arena. This green figure wore a crown on his head. His face was blurry and his body gave off a terrifying aura that looked down on the world. Countless rays of green light surrounded him, increasing his might. Bang bang bang. In an instant, the green figure shot towards the countless shadows before him. A mountain-like palm unceremoniously smashed down in an attempt to break apart the countless shadows. Terrifying explosions resounded in the void. They were continuous and endless. It was as if countless fireworks were blooming in the sky without stopping. Everyone in the arena raised their heads and looked at the terrifying explosions in the sky. Their eyes were filled with shock and anticipation. Qing Ming and Zhu Bai were both top 5 geniuses on the previous Green Emperor ranking. Who would be the final victor in the clash between the two of them? The terrifying explosions did not last for long. They slowly calmed down in the sky like a sunny day after a rain. Swoosh! A figure suddenly shot out and smashed into the huge arena that was suspended in the air. He fell on the arena in a rather miserable state. Everyone looked over and recognized the miserable figure. It was Qing Ming from the Azure Dragon's subsidiary hall. At this moment, Qing Ming's hair was disheveled and his face was pale. Blood trickled down from the corner of his mouth. He looked extremely exhausted. At the same time, there was a trace of unwillingness on his face. He knew that he had been defeated twice by the same person. Qing Ming has been defeated. Aoki, who was sitting on the table, frowned and muttered to himself. Zhu Bai slowly landed on the arena in the sky. He stared at Qing Ming with his sharp eyes and said, "The outcome has been decided. Qing Ming, you have lost." Zhu Bai's face was slightly pale and he was panting. However, compared to Qing Ming, he was in a much better state. It was obvious that Zhu Bai was much stronger than Qing Ming. Qing Ming snorted and jumped down from the arena. He found the territory of the Azure Dragon subsidiary hall and sat down cross-legged on the ground to heal his injuries. Zhu Bai wins the first round. Emperor Qing said indifferently. After the announcement, Zhu Bai also jumped down from the arena and returned to the Zhu family team. With the help of the Zhu family master, he also began to heal the injuries in his body. Those who have drawn lot B, step forward. After the battle between Zhu Bai and Qing Ming ended, Emperor Qing continued to arrange the opponents for the next round. Two figures stepped forward again. They were Grand Lily and Lightless Monk. When Lightless Monk saw that his opponent was Grand Lily, a trace of bitterness appeared on his kind face. Grand Lily was very powerful. Lightless Monk did not have the slightest confidence to face such an opponent. However, he had reached the point where he had no choice but to shoot. Grand Lily's pretty face was cold. She took a step forward and jumped onto the arena. Her cold eyes stared at Lightless Monk with a trace of disdain at the corner of her mouth. In Grand Lily's opinion, Lightless Monk's advancement to the top 10 of the Azure Emperor list was purely due to luck. After all, the strongest person in Lightless Monk's arena was Lve Tao, who was only at the peak of the six-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm. Hence, Grand Lily did not take Lightless Monk seriously at all. Lightless Monk also jumped onto the arena. He put his palms together and bowed to Grand Lily. He said kindly, "I hope Almsgiver Grand Lily will show mercy." "Humph. Little monk, if you don't want to suffer physical pain, it's not too late to forfeit now. Otherwise, it'll be hard to say who will win when the battle starts later," Grand Lily said arrogantly. Lightless Monk put his palms together and continued, "I'm still willing to test Almsgiver Grand Lily's strength." "Humph. Stubborn monk, since you're not forfeiting, don't blame me for being rude." Grand Lily snorted and placed her jade-like hands on her waist. With a light pull, a black soft whip appeared in her palm. Following that, Grand Lily waved her jade-like hands and the soft whip swept toward Monk Wu Deng's face like a spirit snake. Nirvana body. Lightless Monk looked at the soft whip that was sweeping towards him. He was not in a hurry and his palms were still put together. Waves of dazzling golden light burst out from his body, causing Lightless Monk's golden light to spread out. At the same time, a huge illusory image of an ancient Buddha appeared behind Lightless Monk. The ancient Buddha had a compassionate look on his face. He put his palms together and sat cross-legged on the golden lotus, silently overlooking everything that was under his control. Nirvana body. Below the arena, Zhuoan looked at the Nirvana body that Lightless Monk used and was shocked. Lightless Monk's Nirvana body was actually similar to his Vairocana Nirvana body. It seemed that they were both Buddhist body refining cultivation methods. Clang! The sound of metal clashing resounded between heaven and earth. The soft whip that was like a spiritual snake hit the ancient Buddha's body fiercely. However, it was unable to cause any damage to the ancient Buddha. Instead, the soft whip was retracted back into Grand Lily's hand due to the recoil. What a tough body. Chapter 743. The Unlucky Guosheng Boom. 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 Countless whip shadows danced in the sky and landed on Monk Wu Dang's body. Sounds of metal clashing could be heard. Monk Wu Dang was as still as a mountain. He placed his palms together and stood silently on the spot. The ancient Buddha shadow behind him was unusually tough. No matter how terrifying Grand Lily's whip shadows were, they were all absorbed by the shadow. Grand Lily's face turned gloomy. Monk Wu Dang knew that he was not as strong as her. Hence, he did not fight back. Once he attacked, he would reveal his weakness. Hence, he just stood there and defended himself. Moreover, Monk Wu Dang's nirvana body had a terrifying defense. Grand Lily's whip shadows could not do anything to him. Bald monk, are you going to be a coward all the time? Grand Lily could not help but ask. Monk Wu Dang still had his palms together. He wore a friendly smile on his face and said softly, Brother Grand Lily, you are exaggerating. I am not as strong as you. Naturally, I will not embarrass myself in front of you. Grand Lily's face turned gloomy. Monk Wu Dang was stubborn. He only defended and did not attack. She felt helpless. If that's the case, don't blame me for being impolite. Grand Lily snorted coldly and waved her hand. Instantly, the soft whip in her hand emitted a dazzling red glow. 10,000 snakes floating. Grand Lily shouted and her whip changed. Countless whip shadows swept out again. However, this time, the whip shadows were in a demonic blood-red color. The whip shadows wriggled and turned into terrifying blood-red pythons in the sky. There were tens of thousands of them. Their terrifying aura pressed down, causing the entire space to stagnate. Looking at the tens of thousands of blood-red pythons, Monk Wu Dang, who was in the ancient Buddha shadow, was stunned. He could feel the terror of the blood-red pythons and his face turned solemn. Monk Wu Dang continuously formed seals. The ancient Buddha shadow behind him squinted its eyes and slowly opened them. Its eyes were filled with a golden glow. The originally illusory figure became more real at that moment. Boom! Tens of thousands of blood-colored pythons arrived in an instant. They were like a rain of blood that filled the sky. They poured down endlessly on the ancient Buddha's illusory figure, causing countless golden sparks to erupt. Moreover, the Glen Lily's methods were also quite ruthless. The moment the countless blood-colored python whip shadows came into contact with the ancient Buddha's shadow, they exploded and unleashed a terrifying power. With so many blood-colored pythons exploding, the power of the explosion was extremely terrifying. Even the ancient Buddha phantom, which had a strong defense, became illusory and transparent under this explosion. It seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Break for me. Glen Lily's voice was as cold as the winter. As soon as she said that, the countless blood-colored pythons behind her exploded together, forming a huge blood-colored explosion in the sky above the ancient Buddha's shadow. Rumble. The power of the blood-colored explosion was too terrifying. Under the attack of the blood-colored explosion, the ancient Buddha shadow, which had already dimmed, was shattered into countless golden fragments. Puchi. Monk Wu Dang spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were dim and dispirited. He kept retreating until he almost reached the edge of the ring. Bald monk. Aren't you going to admit defeat? Glen Lily held the soft whip in her hand and walked over slowly. Her beautiful face was filled with arrogance. Monk Wu Dang smiled bitterly. There was a huge difference between his cultivation and Glen Lily's. It was not easy for him to hold on until now. I admit defeat. Almsgiver Glen, you have won. Monk Wu Dang placed his palms together. After saying that, he leaped down from the ring without any hesitation. The second round, Glan Lily wins. Emperor Qing nodded and announced again. Glan Haohai, who was sitting at the table, could not help but smile when he heard Emperor Qing's announcement. Although he knew that Glan Lily had improved rapidly in the past few years and had a high chance of entering the top 5 on the Green Emperor leaderboard, it still depended on luck. If Glan Lily was unlucky enough to meet Huangfu Wudao in these 2 rounds, it would be impossible for her to win. She was undoubtedly very lucky to meet Monk Wu Dang in this round of battle for the top 5. This also meant that Glan Lily already had the qualifications to participate in the entrance examination of CA Shan College. Those with Lot C, step forward. Emperor Qing continued. Whoosh! A domineering figure suddenly jumped out from the group of 6 and landed on the arena. A terrifying aura surged out from this person's body. It was as if the person standing on the arena was not a human, but an ancient beast. As soon as this person appeared, the 5 people who had yet to step forward changed their expressions. This was because the person who jumped onto the ring was none other than Huangfu Wudao, the former number 1 genius on the Green Emperor leaderboard. Huangfu Wudao's name was well known in the imperial capital. In addition, during the group stage, he had easily killed the border general who was in charge of the ring. Without a doubt, although Huangfu Wudao's cultivation had not reached the level of the Xuanzuan realm, his strength was even more terrifying than ordinary people in the Xuanzuan realm. He was a true monstrous genius, an existence that the 5 people dared to challenge. It's actually the first prince, Huangfu Wudao. I wonder who is so unlucky to have drawn the first prince as his opponent. Everyone in the square looked at Huangfu Wudao with awe on their faces. Huangfu Wudao's terror was deeply rooted in their hearts. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. The pressure that Huangfu Wudao gave him was extremely terrifying. He knew that if he were to fight Huangfu Wudao now, he would lose without a doubt. At the same time, Zhuowen was very curious. Who exactly was Huangfu Wudao's opponent this time? The others were similarly curious in their hearts. Who exactly was Huangfu Wudao's opponent this time? Therefore, numerous gazes fell on Zhuowen's group of 5. A robust figure slowly walked out. This person carried a large saber on his back, had a resolute expression, and was surrounded by countless saber qi. Guo Sheng. Zhuowen's gaze focused when he saw this figure. He never expected that the person who drew the same lot as Huangfu Wudao would actually be Guo Sheng. There was not the slightest trace of fear in Guo Sheng's eyes. Instead, they were filled with monstrous battle intent. He stomped his foot and instantly leaped onto the ring, staring at Huangfu Wudao with a fervent gaze. The corners of Zhuowen's eyes twitched when he saw Guo Sheng's fervent appearance. This Guo Sheng is really one-track-minded. He's clearly facing a terrifying expert like Huangfu Wudao, yet he's not the slightest bit afraid and can even be so excited. Kid! Is there something wrong with this fellow's brain? Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out in his mind. This caused Zhuowen's face to twitch. He smiled embarrassedly and said, "It's not that there's something wrong with his brain. It's just that his brain isn't working well." Domineering Blade Heavenly Venerate, who was sitting upright on the table, had a grave expression on his face. However, he sighed inwardly. Guo Sheng's talent was very strong, especially his comprehension of the Saber Dao. Even Domineering Blade Heavenly Venerate secretly praised Guo Sheng. Guo Sheng was a genius in the Saber Dao. A month ago, Guo Sheng had already broken through to the ultimate 8-wheel Emperor realm. In addition to his saber intent, Guo Sheng was not even afraid of an advanced ultimate 8-wheel Emperor realm expert in a battle. Logically speaking, such strength was more than enough to enter the top 5 of the Green Emperor list. Unfortunately, Guo Sheng's opponent this time was Huangfu Wudao. His chances of victory were too slim. I never thought that Huangfu Wudao's opponent this time would actually be Guo Sheng. Guo Sheng can be considered a rather famous genius. He is also very strong and has comprehended saber intent. However, his luck is not good. He actually encountered Huangfu Wudao. Everyone in the square shook their heads and sighed. They all lamented Guo Sheng's bad luck. This time, his path to the top 5 would probably be completely cut short. In the arena, Huangfu Wudao glanced indifferently at Guo Sheng and said indifferently, "Forfeit." Guo Sheng shook his head and said rather excitedly, "I've always heard that Huangfu Wudao's strength is extraordinary. I, Guo Sheng, have wanted to spar with you for a long time. Unfortunately, you've always been elusive. Now that I've encountered you, how can I forfeit?" Guo Sheng became more and more excited as he spoke. The saber qi around him even unconsciously formed countless hurricanes, making Guo Sheng seem even more terrifying. Huangfu Wudao looked indifferently at the fanatical Guo Sheng and said, "You won't be able to take one of my moves." "That's not necessarily true." Guo Sheng shook his head. He bent his knees slightly and lowered his waist. He suddenly pulled out the large saber on his back. Instantly, terrifying saber qi covered over 10 meters around him, forming a saber qi domain. Guo Sheng used saber intent from the beginning. He was very clear about Huangfu Wudao's strength, so Guo Sheng didn't dare be careless. "I'll give Tyrant Blade Exalted Heavenly Master face. I won't kill you. I'll only heavily injure you." Huangfu Wudao's voice was icy cold. He took a step forward, causing countless gales to sweep out. His shoulder-length hair and clothes fluttered in the air. Whoosh! In an instant, Huangfu Wudao disappeared on the spot. When everyone came back to their senses, Guo Sheng, who had originally used saber intent, was like a kite with a broken string as he flew out of the arena. Spurt! An arrow of blood spurted out. Guo Sheng's face was as pale as snow, and his pupils constricted to the size of needles. Huangfu Wudao had only used one move, and the saber intent domain he'd used had actually collapsed. Then, he was seriously injured and flew out. Guo Sheng didn't have the slightest ability to resist. As he looked at Guo Sheng, who was instantly defeated, Zhuo Wen's gaze squinted slightly, and it was filled with shock. Even though Zhuo Wen knew that Huangfu Wudao's strength was extremely strong, he never imagined that it would be so ridiculously strong. Guo Sheng, who had mastered saber intent and had broken through to the ultimate emperor stage, couldn't even withstand one move from Huangfu Wudao. The third round, Huangfu Wudao wins. Looking at Huangfu Wudao, who had cleanly defeated Guo Sheng, the corners of the Qing emperor's mouth curled into a smile. Huangfu Wudao was the disciple of the imperial family that he valued the most. In a sense, Huangfu Wudao actually represented the dignity of the imperial family. The more outstanding Huangfu Wudao's performance was, the more the dignity of the imperial family was displayed. Following Huangfu Wudao's strong victory, the Qing emperor continued to announce, "Those who drew lot D, step forward." At this moment, there were only 4 people left who hadn't fought. They were Zhuowen, Huangfu Wuji, Qing Yan, and Murong Zhan. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 figures suddenly stepped forward and leaped into the arena. They faced each other from a distance. It was Murong Zhan and Qing Yan. Zhuowen slowly turned his head, and his eyes suddenly met with Huangfu Wuji's. Both of their eyes emitted an intense cold light. Chapter 744. Azure Dragon Secret Art. "I don't think the one with bad luck is me, but you," Zhuowen indifferently replied. "Hee. You're still as arrogant as ever. In a moment, I will let you know the taste of despair." Huangfu Wuji's eyes flashed with a cold light as he coldly said. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. After Huangfu Wuji had broken through to the ultimate emperor realm, he had become quite troublesome to deal with. But, Zhuowen also had many cards in his hand, so he didn't necessarily fear Huangfu Wuji. "I can see that your mouth is very fierce. The words you spit out are like farts. If you're really so fierce, then I'll show you my true skills," Zhuowen coldly said. Huangfu Wuji's pupils shrank. He coldly said, "Humph. You'll see." As he spoke, Huangfu Wuji no longer spoke. Instead, he looked at the arena. Although Zhuowen had killed Feng Yong and Chao Yan, he had been stunned. But to Huangfu Wuji, he could also kill Zhuowen with a flip of his hand. Thus, he was confident that he could face off against Zhuowen. On the arena, Murong Zhan still had a feminine smile on his face. But, as he stared at Qing Yan, who was wearing the Azure Dragon mask, there was a trace of seriousness in his eyes. Qing Yan was one of the two peerless heroes of the Azure Dragon division. He was low-key and extremely mysterious. In the last Azure Emperor rankings, he had been ranked 5th. But, in that ranking tournament, Qing Yan had not displayed his full strength, and had instead taken the initiative to give the 4th position to Qing Ming. Murong Zhan was very clear that if Qing Yan hadn't taken the initiative to forfeit, then he would have been able to easily defeat him. Qing Yan, have you ever regretted forfeiting in the last ranking tournament? Your strength should be above Qing Ming's. In my opinion, giving up the 4th position to Qing Ming was truly foolish. Murong Zhan elegantly said. Qing Yan slowly raised his head. A pair of sharp eyes pierced through the Azure Dragon mask and faintly stared at Murong Zhan in front of him. At the same time, his hoarse voice sounded out. The Azure Emperor rankings doesn't mean much to me. Murong Zhan raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, since it's meaningless, there's no need for us to fight. Just give up, just like last time. Qing Yan's gaze was still cold. He stared at Murong Zhan and continued, but it's different this time. The top 5 will determine the qualifications to enter Jiaxin Academy. Therefore, you have to lose. Hearing this, Murong Zhan frowned and said coldly, I will lose. In my opinion, you don't have that kind of ability, do you? Whether or not you have this kind of ability is not just for you to say. Let's see who's the real deal. Qing Yan stopped talking nonsense and stood quietly on the spot. Waves of green energy burst out from his body and condensed behind him like building blocks. Awoo! Suddenly, a huge green dragon quietly appeared in the void behind Qing Yan. Its huge dragon eyes were filled with majesty. The green scales on its body emitted a chilling light, causing people to involuntarily feel a sense of awe and veneration. Azure Dragon Art? Your Qing Yan has actually mastered the Azure Dragon Art? On the table, the Azure Emperor's gaze froze as he stared at Qing Yan in astonishment. Aoki, who was sitting not far away, slowly poured a cup of wine. There was a hint of joy in his eyes as he smiled and said, Qing Yan is the person with the highest talent in my Azure Dragon Branch Hall. Moreover, he has awakened a dragon soul of a high rank. He is most suitable to cultivate the Azure Dragon Art. Dragon Soul. Hearing Aoki's words, the pupils of the other Almighties on the table shrank. How could they not know about the Dragon Soul? The Dragon Soul was a dragon-shaped armor soul. This kind of armor soul was superior to all other armor souls and possessed a terrifying might that could look down on the world. Only the Blue Dragon Hall could possess a dragon soul. Within the Blue Dragon Hall, those who could awaken a dragon soul were all important targets to nurture. Once such a genius reached the 4th Reverend Realm, his strength would become extremely terrifying. Therefore, the gazes of all the Almighties changed when they heard Qing Yan's name. They were very clear that Qing Yan, who possessed a dragon soul, had a limitless future. Lu Hantian's right hand trembled as his eyes flickered. His gaze was on Zhuowen, who was below the stage. He was very clear that Qing Yan was not the only one who possessed a dragon soul. Zhuowen also possessed one. I never expected that someone from your Azure Dragon Branch Hall would awaken a dragon soul. I'm afraid that Qing Yan will soon be taken away by the main hall, right? If that's the case, there's not much meaning for Qing Yan to join the excellent Divine Academy. At this point, the Azure Emperor's gaze had a trace of doubt. If Qing Yan had truly awakened a dragon soul, the Azure Dragon Main Hall would definitely send people to take him away and nurture him. The Azure Dragon Main Hall's foundation was even deeper than the excellent Divine Academy. If Qing Yan were to enter the main hall, his development would be much better than in the excellent Divine Academy. Aoki shook his head and bitterly smiled. Your Highness Azure Emperor's words are not false. However, you should know that dragon souls are also divided into grades. They are divided into grades 1 to 9, with grade 1 being the lowest and grade 9 being the highest. The Eastern Lands is vast. The Azure Dragon Branch Hall alone is no less than 3 digits. It can be said that they are spread throughout the entire Eastern Lands. Every year, there will be a few geniuses from the branch hall who have awakened a dragon's soul and they will be taken away by the main hall. Generally, only geniuses with dragon souls of grade 4 and above will be taken in by the main hall. However, dragon souls of grade 4 and below have limited potential. The main hall will not spend the effort to nurture these geniuses. At this point, the bitterness in the corner of Aoki's mouth became even more intense. He continued, although Qing Yan has awakened a dragon soul, it's only a grade 3 dragon soul. He's not qualified, so he can't enter the main hall to cultivate. Hearing this, the Azure Emperor nodded and said, a grade 3 dragon soul is much stronger than an ordinary armor soul. With the help of the Azure Dragon's secret art, if Qing Yan reaches the 4th Supremacy Realm, he will still be far stronger than an ordinary 4th Supremacy Realm expert. If Qing Yan can enter the excellent Divine Academy this time, he will definitely advance by leaps and bounds. His future will be limitless. The other almighties on the table also nodded. A grade 3 dragon soul might not be much to the Azure Dragon Branch Hall, but to them, it was already very powerful. In the Azure Xian Empire, there might be armor souls that could surpass a grade 3 dragon soul, but they were very few and extremely rare. It's actually a dragon soul. Looking at the Azure Dragon formed by the countless forces behind Qing Yan, Zhuowen could feel the aura of this Azure Dragon. It was actually somewhat similar to Xiaohe. Clearly, this Azure Force was formed by a dragon soul. But how can this Qing Yan materialize a dragon soul? He's clearly only at the ultimate emperor stage. Soon, Zhuowen frowned and muttered to himself in confusion. Hee. What an ignorant brat. This Qing Yan must have cultivated some kind of cultivation technique that can combine the Yuan Qi in his body with the dragon's soul and finally transform into such a Qi giant dragon. Xiaohe's voice suddenly rang out in Zhuowen's mind, explaining the phenomenon of Qing Yan's current appearance to him. In other words, Qing Yan isn't a dragon soul materialization now? Zhuowen secretly asked Xiaohe. It's not materialization. It's just somewhat similar to it, but its power is much weaker than it. Moreover, the dragon soul in this Qing Yan's body is of a pathetically low grade. If I'm not wrong, it should only be a grade 3 dragon soul. At this point, Xiaohe's voice became extremely disdainful. It was obvious that he looked down on the dragon soul in Qing Yan's body. What a strange cultivation technique. It can actually make the dragon soul manifest in advance. Zhuowen didn't pay attention to Xiaohe's disdain. Instead, he looked at the giant dragon behind Qing Yan with envy. He knew that Xiaohe's original body was very unusual. If he could make Xiaohe materialize, he would be able to unleash an extremely terrifying power and might. At this moment, the most shocked person should be Murong Zhan, especially when he looked at the terrifying giant dragon behind Qing Yan. His eyes were filled with a trace of fear. The Blue Dragon Hall's Green Dragon Technique. You actually succeeded in cultivating this cultivation technique? Murong Zhan asked in disbelief. The Green Dragon Technique was the highest cultivation technique in the Green Dragon sub-hall. Its power was extremely terrifying, but it was also very difficult to cultivate. It was said that even Aoki hadn't succeeded in cultivating it. Now, Qing Yan had actually succeeded in cultivating this cultivation technique, and it looked like he was using it with great ease. What? Are you afraid? Qing Yan was expressionless as he asked indifferently. Afraid? Not necessarily. I, Murong Zhan, would like to experience the power of your Blue Dragon Hall's famous Green Dragon technique. What do you think? Murong-Zhan coldly snorted. His aura erupted like a volcano, causing the surrounding air to flow upwards like an upside-down waterfall, creating thousands of ripples. It made him look awe-inspiring and insufferably arrogant. Whoosh! In an instant, Murong-Zhan jumped up. The wind whistled, and his clothes fluttered in the wind. Chaotic battle technique. With a low roar, Murong-Zhan had already arrived in the air above Qing Yan. His right hand formed a sword and pointed out. Countless terrifying auras swept out, transforming into endless blade lights and sword shadows. In an instant, it was as if Murong-Zhan's surroundings had turned into a terrifying battlefield. The Murong clan's chaotic battle technique? Unfortunately, in my opinion, your chaotic battle technique won't be able to withstand a single blow. From beginning to end, Qing Yan's expression was calm. The eyes that were revealed through the green dragon mask were as calm as water. He stretched out his right hand and casually waved it downwards. The huge green dragon behind him roared, and the sound waves rolled out, shaking the heavens and the earth. The mountain-like green dragon claw swept towards the sky. With a cracking sound, the countless sword shadows around Murong-Zhan were instantly shattered like paper. What? How is this possible? Murong-Zhan's eyes narrowed into needles as he looked at the huge green dragon claw that was getting closer and closer. His eyes were filled with disbelief. His chaotic battle technique had been broken so easily. Even the green dragon claw didn't slow down at all. It was like a hot knife through butter. Puchi! The green dragon claw hit Murong-Zhan's chest. A terrifying force exploded, causing Murong-Zhan's pupils to shrink to the extreme. His entire body was like a falling leaf as he flew out of the arena. One move. Qing Yan had only used one move, or even just a wave of his hand, and Murong-Zhan, who used to be ranked second on the Green Emperor leaderboard, had been defeated so thoroughly. Chapter 745. Another battle. What a terrifying Qing Yan. Murong-Zhan was originally ranked second on the Green Emperor leaderboard, but he couldn't even last a single move. Everyone's eyes were focused on the arena. Qing Yan was shrouded in a giant green dragon, and his eyes were filled with shock. Although Qing Yan was extremely mysterious and his strength was not to be underestimated, Murong-Zhan was still ranked second on the Green Emperor leaderboard. If he couldn't even last a single move from Qing Yan, then Qing Yan was just too terrifying. The gazes of the other geniuses below the stage narrowed as they looked at the green eyes below the green dragon with wary expressions. Qing Yan probably already had the strength to compete with Huangfu Wudao. After all, Murong-Zhan was defeated in a single move. This already proved Qing Yan's strength. The fourth round, Qing Yan wins. Emperor Qing slowly announced the result. His eyes were calm as he looked at Qing Yan. He could see Qing Yan's strength at a glance. He should be at the late stage of the 9th Will Emperor realm. There was still a small gap between him and Huangfu Wudao. However, if Qing Yan's dragon soul and the green dragon's secret art were combined, then he probably had the strength to fight with Huangfu Wudao. From beginning to end, Qing Yan was extremely calm. With a wave of his right hand, the giant green dragon entered his body and disappeared. Then, he calmly jumped off the arena. As for Murong-Zhan, he was brought back by the Murong family to treat his injuries. As for the Murong family head, his expression wasn't any better. After all, Murong-Zhan had actually lost the battle for the top 5, which meant that he had lost the opportunity to enter the Fine Gods Academy. The two of you are left. You should be holding the 5th lot. After Qing Yan came down, Emperor Qing's eyes fell on Zhuowen and Huangfu Wudao. 4 of the top 5 on the Green Emperor leaderboard had already been decided. The last spot would naturally be decided between Huangfu Wudao and Zhuowen. Whoosh! Huangfu Wuji was the first to leap onto the arena stage. He looked down at Zhuowen from high above and coldly shouted, "Zhuowen, why haven't you rolled onto the stage and died yet?" His voice was like thunder. It was as if 5 bolts of lightning had struck the heavens and earth. It was terrifying and terrifying. Humph. Huangfu Wudao, you don't need to make such a big fuss even if you want to die, right? I won't let you die a horrible death later. Zhuowen was not to be outdone. With a single step, he also leapt onto the stage. As he stared at Huangfu Wuji, a cold light surged in his eyes, as if they were 10,000 years old ice. Ever since Zhuowen had won the gambling match at the intoxicating spring pavilion, Huangfu Wuji had been targeting him at every turn. This sort of behavior had already caused Zhuowen to feel a chill in his heart. This time, the grudges between the two of them would be thoroughly settled in this match. The second prince and this Zhuowen are going to fight. Looks like there will be a good show to watch. Yeah. When the two of them were fighting in the drunken spring pavilion, they were already in conflict. At that time, Zhuowen's cultivation was far inferior to the second prince's. However, Zhuowen's cultivation has already reached the peak of the ultimate 7-Will Emperor realm. His cultivation is no weaker than the second prince's. This Zhuowen's talent is truly terrifying. To think that he would advance so quickly. He has already caught up to the second prince. I wonder who will win in this match. Looking at the two people facing each other on the stage, the crowd in the square burst into an uproar. News of the conflict between Zhuowen and Huangfu Wuji had already spread throughout the imperial city. So now that the two of them were facing off in the top 5, it naturally attracted the attention of many people. They were all looking forward to seeing who would have the last laugh in this match. Little bastard. Today, I will ruthlessly trample you beneath my feet and ruthlessly ravage you. Huangfu Wuji fiercely stepped forwards. A terrifying aura constantly swept out from his body. An endless wind howled around him, faintly seeming as if it would collapse the surrounding space. The aura of the ultimate 8-Will Emperor realm. This Huangfu Wuji really did make a breakthrough in 3 months. Looking at the terrifying aura erupting from Huangfu Wuji's body, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. A trace of surprise appeared in his heart. No wonder Huangfu Wuji had been so confident after seeing him kill Feng Yong. It seemed that it was because he had made a breakthrough. The moment Huangfu Wuji released his aura, everyone in the square also revealed looks of surprise. They never thought that Huangfu Wuji would also be an 8-Will Emperor realm martial artist. The second prince has made a breakthrough. It looks like this Zhuowen is in for some bad luck. Originally, many people were very optimistic about Zhuowen. But now that they saw Huangfu Wuji reveal the aura of the ultimate 8-Will Emperor realm, they began to doubt him. If Huangfu Wuji hadn't made a breakthrough, then perhaps he would have been inferior to Zhuowen. But now that he had made a breakthrough, and the armor skills that Huangfu Wuji cultivated were all personally taught by the Azure Emperor, they were much stronger than normal. Thus, Huangfu Wuji was generally much stronger than other martial artists of the same level. Now that he had reached the ultimate 8-Will Emperor realm, his strength would definitely surpass an ordinary 8-Will Emperor's early-stage martial artist. Huangfu Wuji enjoyed the awe-inspiring gazes of everyone around him. He raised his head and looked down at Zhuowen, as if Zhuowen was nothing more than an ant in his eyes. Zhuowen. Do you still want to fight me? Huangfu Wuji smiled with satisfaction. After revealing the aura of the ultimate 8-Will Emperor realm, Huangfu Wuji's confidence had swelled to the extreme. He no longer placed Zhuowen in his eyes. Idiot. Zhuowen looked at Huangfu Wuji as if he were looking at an idiot. After Huangfu Wuji had broken through to the ultimate 8-Will Emperor realm, his confidence had exploded to the point that it left Zhuowen speechless. Humph. Your fangs are still as sharp as ever. Huangfu Wuji's face twitched. With a cold snort, his entire body turned into an unfathomable shadow, disappearing from where he stood. In the blink of an eye, he appeared above Zhuowen. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 purple blades of energy shot out from Huangfu Wuji's palms. They were dozens of feet long and had an intense sharpness to them, as if they could even cut through the surrounding space. Zhuowen licked his lips. Unknowingly, a 10-foot-long bone spear appeared in his right palm. As he looked at Huangfu Wuji flying towards him, his eyes filled with fighting spirit. In the peach blossom origin diagram, Zhuowen had been chased to the ends of the earth by Huangfu Wuji. Even now, that scene was still vivid in his mind. How could he, Zhuowen, not take revenge? Pang! 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 In an instant, the two of them collided. Countless sparks flew out as if they were two phantoms. The two of them rapidly moved across the arena, colliding, separating, and then colliding again. Bang! With a muffled sound, the two of them were both forced back dozens of steps. Zhuowen stared at Huangfu Wuji and mockingly said, "Respected second prince, didn't you say that you wanted me to die? We've already fought for so many rounds, but I'm still standing here perfectly fine." Huangfu Wuji narrowed his eyes and coldly snorted. "You brat who doesn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. You will regret your words soon." As Huangfu Wuji spoke, he rushed forwards once more. The purple blades in his hands crazily grew, becoming thousands of feet long. In the air, they were like two massive purple mountain peaks. Extreme purple annihilation. With a low shout, the two massive purple blades that Huangfu Wuji had created rumbled downwards, rushing towards Zhuowen's head. Zhuowen still remembered this extreme purple annihilation. When Huangfu Wuji was at the peak of the ultimate emperor realm, it was already extremely terrifying. Now that he had reached the ultimate emperor realm, the might of this attack would be even more terrifying. Thus, Zhuowen didn't plan on facing it head-on. The seals in his hands changed and 3 pairs of thunder wings sprouted from Zhuowen's back. With a stamp of his feet, he turned into a shadow of thunder, wanting to escape from the range of the extreme purple annihilation. "I want to see where you're going to run. Purple Eye." As Huangfu Wuji saw that Zhuowen wanted to escape, he angrily shouted out. Originally, it was because Zhuowen had 3 pairs of strange thunder wings that Huangfu Wuji had been unable to catch up to him. Thus, Huangfu Wuji hated it when Zhuowen tried to escape. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A pair of purple eyes descended from the void. Suddenly, the space around Huangfu Wuji began to collapse. Zhuowen just happened to be in this collapsing area. With no other choice, Zhuowen could only return. Within the range of the purple eyes, Zhuowen truly found it difficult to escape. He could only passively endure the approaching extreme purple annihilation. With a flick of his right hand's fingers, the bone spear began to rapidly revolve. A blue energy swept out from the bone spear, with Zhuowen as the center. It formed a domain of countless spear shadows. Zhuowen had used his spear intent. Bang! 2 massive purple blades chopped down, crashing into the spear's shadow domain. Suddenly, countless explosions occurred. Shockwaves spread out in all directions, and even space itself seemed as if it would completely collapse. However, the 2 purple blades finally stopped above the spear's shadow domain, and did not break through it. Humph! This boy's spear intent has improved again. Looking at the spear's shadow domain that blocked the purple blades, Huangfu Wuji's pupils shrank. He stepped into the void and waved his right hand. Another purple blade appeared in his hand, forming a similarly massive purple blade. "I want to see whether or not your spear intent can block my 3rd blade." With a sneer, Huangfu Wuji threw out the 3rd blade in his hand. The massive purple blade turned into a monstrous purple light in the air, and fiercely smashed into the spear intent domain below. Kacha! A clear sound rang out, and the spear's shadow domain was immediately broken. The 3 purple blades swept down towards Zhuowen's figure, their momentum vast and mighty. "Zhuowen, with 3 purple blades attacking at the same time, you're dead." Huangfu Wuji smiled with satisfaction. If Zhuowen's spear intent domain was broken, then there was nothing else that could block his purple blades. In his opinion, the current Zhuowen could only wait for death. Peng peng peng. The 3 purple blades blasted out, smashing into the martial stage below. Endless sounds of destruction rang out, and the entire martial stage was riddled with holes. Smoke filled the air. Huangfu Wuji's smile became even wider, and he even began to laugh. He knew that Zhuowen was finished. Everyone around the square shook their heads and sighed. They could also feel the terror of Huangfu Wuji's 3 purple blades. Zhuowen's spear intent domain had been broken, and now that he had been struck, his chances of survival were simply too low. Your Highness the Second Prince, don't you think that when you laugh, you look like an idiot? As Huangfu Wuji was laughing with satisfaction, a cold and indifferent voice sounded out from the martial stage below. In the thick layer of dust, a figure slowly stepped out, looking at Huangfu Wuji with eyes full of mockery. Chapter 746. Smoothly promoted on the arena stage, Zhuowen slowly walked out, the cold light of the infinite sword array surrounding him. Ever since Zhuowen's soul force had broken through to the 5th grade Great Circle, Zhuowen was able to display the full power of the infinite sword array. Even if he casually used a single move, the power he displayed was much greater than before. The defense formed by the sword array was also much stronger than before. Huangfu Wuji frowned. He naturally recognized the infinite sword array that surrounded Zhuowen. It was a 5th grade origin array. Back in the Peach Blossom origin diagram, when he was pursuing Zhuowen had used the infinitesimal sword formation to block him. However, what puzzled him was that the infinitesimal sword formation back then shouldn't have been so strong. When he had used the extreme purple annihilation, he had been able to break through the infinite sword array's defense. At that time, he had not yet broken through to the ultimate emperor realm. Now that he had broken through, the extreme purple annihilation was even more terrifying. Even so, it had been easily blocked by the infinite sword array. The power of the infinite sword array has increased. Huangfu Wuji frowned as he muttered to himself. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Zhuowen stamped his foot and the countless cold sword lights that surrounded him shot towards Huangfu Wuji like meteors. At the same time, Zhuowen grasped the bone spear in his right hand and leapt forwards, instantly arriving in front of Huangfu Wuji. With a shake of his right hand, a terrifying spear intent burst forth. In that instant, Zhuowen no longer held back. He used his soul force and spear intent at the same time. He knew that if he wanted to defeat Huangfu Wuji, he would have to use all of his cards without holding back. Huangfu Wuji was not afraid. His hands once again formed 2 purple blades. Like a windmill, the purple blades danced in the air, forming a net of purple energy that flew out in all directions. Clang clang clang. The sound of metal striking metal continued to ring out, accompanied by countless sparks that formed a dazzling display of sparks in front of Huangfu Wuji. Whoosh! Amidst the countless sparks, a cold bone spear shuttled through. With a humming sound, it shot straight towards Huangfu Wuji's forehead. As Huangfu Wuji felt this cold light rush towards him, his complexion changed. He swept out his right hand, and the purple edge blocked between his eyebrows. With a tinkling sound, he felt a tremendous strength strike him, and then Huangfu Wuji was forced backwards in the air. His right foot took a final step forward. Only then was Huangfu Wuji barely able to stabilize himself. His face flushed red, and his blood boiled. Zhuowen Wuji, with your strength, you actually dare to ask me, Zhuowen, to die? Where did you get such big words from? Or is it that you're just good at talking? Zhuowen suddenly mocked. As these words came out, many people in the square turned to look at Huangfu Wuji, strange expressions on their faces. Zhuowen was right. At the start, Huangfu Wuji had been full of confidence. He had boasted that Zhuowen would come up and die. But now, Zhuowen was completely unharmed. As for Huangfu Wuji, he was completely at a disadvantage. This was simply slapping himself in the face. Huangfu Wuji's eyes narrowed. His face burned with anger, and he revealed an angry expression. Little bastard, that was just your luck. Now, see how I'll deal with you. Huangfu Wuji angrily shouted. He once again used the extreme purple annihilation, and at the same time also used the third edge. This time, he would thoroughly cut down Zhuowen on the arena stage. Only then would he be able to resolve the hatred in his heart. Idiot! The same move is completely useless against me. Zhuowen coldly smiled. His right hand formed a sword seal, and he shouted out in a low voice, "Greater everlasting sword array, weeping blood style." At the same time, Zhuowen's Naiwen palace began to revolve at high speeds. His fifth-grade soul force poured out without reservation, causing the power of the greater everlasting sword array to swell to the extreme. An endless rain of blood fell down from the greater everlasting sword array. For a time, the greater everlasting sword array turned into countless blood-red lights that rushed towards Huangfu Wuji. Bang! Coincidentally, Huangfu Wuji's extreme purple annihilation also arrived. 3 mountain-sized purple edges simultaneously chopped down on the greater everlasting sword array. Then, the 3 purple edges completely froze. Then, they were covered in countless blood-red lights. With a cracking sound, the 3 massive purple edges were completely shattered by the blood-red lights, turning into countless purple specks of light. The blood-red lights swept towards Huangfu Wuji with irresistible force. A terrifying smell of blood filled the air, as if it wanted to tear Huangfu Wuji to pieces. At this moment, the only expression on Huangfu Wuji's face was fear. Endless fear. He never imagined that Zhuowen's soul force would be so formidable. The greater everlasting sword array's first sword move, Weeping Blood style, had actually reached such a terrifying degree of power. It's not that the greater everlasting sword array's power has increased, but that Zhuowen's soul force has advanced to the 5th grade. He is now able to display the full power of the greater everlasting sword array. At this moment, Huangfu Wuji finally understood why the greater everlasting sword array's power had increased so much. This was because Zhuowen was now a 5th grade arcana master. He was able to display the full power of the greater everlasting sword array. Puchi! The blood-red light smashed into Huangfu Wuji's chest. Then, Huangfu Wuji was like a butterfly with broken wings. He was sent flying backwards, blood gushing out like a fountain. His face was deathly pale. A 5th grade arcana master. This Zhuowen's soul force has actually reached the 5th grade. This is too terrifying. This Zhuowen is only around 20 years old, and yet his soul force has already reached such a terrifying degree. Isn't this too amazing? The moment that Huangfu Wuji was sent flying backwards, the entire square began to seethe with excitement. When Zhuowen had used the greater everlasting sword array and instantly crushed Huangfu Wuji, everyone knew that only a 5th grade soul force could display such a terrifying might. The originally calm Cyan Emperor revealed a trace of surprise as he saw Zhuowen use his 5th grade soul force. He hadn't expected that at such a young age, Zhuowen's soul force would actually reach the 5th grade. His talent was truly terrifying. This child's talent in the aspect of soul force can be called a peerless monstrous genius. The Cyan Emperor thought to himself. Now, he valued Zhuowen even more. As for Huangfu Wuji's defeat, the Cyan Emperor didn't feel much about it. After all, Zhuowen had defeated Huangfu Wuji fair and square, so he didn't feel anything was wrong. 5th grade arcana master. Grand Lily frowned. Zhuowen having a 5th grade soul force was beyond her expectations. 5th grade arcana masters were extremely rare in the Cyan Xian dynasty. The most famous of them were the 9 great elders of the Arcane Guild headquarters. These 9 great elders all had soul forces above the 5th grade. However, those that could reach the 5th grade soul force were over 50 years old, they were all old men in their 60s. But Zhuowen was only 20 years old. For him to have a 5th grade soul force at such an age, everyone knew that with such talent and potential, it was only a matter of time before he became a 6th grade arcana master. It was said that once an Arcana Master transformed into a 6th grade Arcana Master, their soul force would undergo a great change, and their strength would undergo another qualitative change. Elder Xiuan of the Arcane Guild was a 6th grade Arcana Master. His strength was unfathomable, and he had once contended with the Cyan Emperor. From this, one could see how terrifying a 6th grade Arcana Master was. However, the difficulty of going from the 5th grade to the 6th grade was equivalent to going from the 4 Venerables to the Emperor. The difficulty was as high as ascending to the heavens. Even Elder Xiuan had spent decades to transition from the 5th grade to the 6th grade. This child cannot be left alive. Thinking of this, the killing intent in Grand Lily's beautiful eyes became even more vigorous. She didn't expect Zhuowen's soul force talent to be so terrifying. Now, Zhuowen was standing on the opposite side of the Grand Lily family. If Zhuowen's soul force broke through to the 6th grade, coupled with the terrifying 6th grade origin array, perhaps even a heavenly venerable would not be able to do anything to Zhuowen. Moreover, if Zhuowen could reach the terrifying realm of Elder Xiuan, perhaps even the Cyan Emperor would not be able to do anything to Zhuowen. Therefore, Grand Lily's heart was filled with killing intent. She had to completely eliminate Zhuowen before he grew up. Many people had the same thoughts as Grand Lily. Feng Tian, Chao Ji, Grand Haohai, and Flamewing all wanted to kill Zhuowen. Especially after seeing Zhuowen's soul force talent, their thoughts of killing Zhuowen became even more active. The 5th round, Zhuowen wins. The Cyan Emperor said faintly. Immediately after, he waved his sleeve and said, "The battle for the top 5 is now over. This time, I congratulate the 5 geniuses who have entered the top 5. You have obtained the qualification to participate in the entrance examination of CA Shin Academy." At this moment, Zhuowen had already arrived in front of the high platform. At the same time, Huangfu Wudao, Qing Yan, Zhu Bai, and Grand Lily were also standing on the high platform in front of the table. Next will be the marquee battle for the top 3. However, in view of the fact that you have just fought and are physically and mentally exhausted, the marquee battle will be held in 10 days. In these 10 days, the 5 of you should recuperate from your injuries and condition. When the Cyan Emperor said this, many people in the square were disappointed. Originally, they wanted to see the top 5 geniuses fight, but now it seemed that they would have to wait for 10 days. However, everyone knew that the battle for the top 5 had already exhausted too much of the 5 geniuses' energy. At this moment, their condition was not good. Even if they continued to fight, it was likely that they would not be able to reach their peak standards. Instead, their standards would be inaccurate. It was better for them to rest for 10 days and restore their standards to their peak. Only then could they fight to their heart's content. Now, I will give out the rewards for the top 10 and top 5 on the Cyan Emperor board. Now, the top 10 geniuses, step forward and follow me to the throne room. When the Cyan Emperor said this, the other 5 geniuses, who were still recuperating, suddenly opened their eyes. Their eyes flashed with a faint excitement. The rewards for the top 10 on the Cyan Emperor board were the personal empowerment of the Cyan Emperor. This was the personal empowerment of an Emperor Realm expert. It could raise a cultivator's cultivation by a large realm without any side effects. Zhuowen's eyes also revealed a look of excitement. With the empowerment of the Cyan Emperor, his cultivation could directly reach the peak of the ultimate Emperor realm. If he had an epiphany, he could directly advance to the ultimate Emperor realm. At that time, his cultivation would increase by a large margin. The Cyan Emperor slowly stood up, waved his sleeve, and walked towards the throne room. The top 10 geniuses did not slow down. They followed closely behind the Cyan Emperor with excitement in their eyes. However, as Zhuowen walked, he noticed many unfriendly gazes. 2 of them came from Huangfu Wudao and Grand Lily, while the others came from the Almighty on the table. Chapter 747. Azure Dragon Aura. The throne room was extremely majestic. Purple gold stone pillars stood in the hall, supporting this huge building from collapsing. It was Zhuowen's first time entering the throne room. Even with the experience of his previous life, he could not help but be shocked by the majestic hall in front of him. The throne room was indeed huge. It was much bigger and more majestic than the Forbidden City Palace on Earth in his previous life. Moreover, it was filled with jewels and was majestic. Just this aura alone was enough to deeply awe many people present. Other than Huangfu Wudao and Huangfu Wuji, the other 7 people more or less revealed a trace of surprise on their faces. Like Zhuowen, it was their first time entering the throne room. Soon, the Azure Emperor led everyone to the center of the hall. There was a rather spacious open space in the center. There were no eaves covering the open space. Looking up, one could see the scorching sun in the sky. Under the scorching sun, one could see the dragon-shaped aura lingering above the imperial city. The huge dragon's body circled above the throne room. It was as majestic as a mountain. Its huge dragon eyes quietly overlooked the throne room as if it could see through everything. Staring at the dragon-shaped aura in the sky, Zhuowen frowned. He did not know why, but the aura of the dragon-shaped aura gave him a feeling of déjà vu. This feeling was very strange and wonderful. However, Zhuowen did not take it to heart. He only thought that this familiar aura should be because he had the dragon's soul. Under the rays of the scorching sun, an altar made of white marble stood silently in the center of the open space. Above the altar, a sparkling and translucent gem floated silently. This is the dragon vein of the Qing Xian Empire. It suppresses the fate of the entire imperial city. I will make use of the dragon vein's luck to imbue the 10 of you with this altar. As for what benefits you will receive, it will depend on your own luck. The Azure Emperor slowly came before the altar. His gentle voice slowly sounded in the ears of the 10 people, causing their eyes to be filled with passion. There was actually a dragon vein under the throne room. No wonder the imperial family had been prosperous for so many years. It turned out that there was a dragon vein under the imperial city. The so-called dragon vein was actually the place where a true dragon fell in ancient times. It formed a mountain range with surging energy. The dragon vein contained extremely pure energy that could quickly raise the cultivation and realm of a warrior. While everyone had their own thoughts, Xiao He and Zhuowen's sea of consciousness exploded. Dragon vein? Kid, the dragon vein underground is not simple. Furthermore, it's not just one dragon vein, but many dragon veins. In fact, this dragon lord can sense that in the deepest part of the underground, there are true dragon corpses from ancient times. Xiao He's chattering voice rang in Zhuowen's ears. Zhuowen could not help but dig his ears. However, Zhuowen was more shocked. Xiao He actually said that there was not only one dragon vein but many dragon veins under the throne room. In addition, there were true dragon corpses under the dragon veins. Wasn't this too shocking? If what you said is true, then the Azure Emperor should also know the secret underground, right? Zhuowen asked with a frown. He knew very well that Zhuowen had built the throne room on the dragon vein. It was obvious that he had developed the dragon vein before. This could be seen from the terrifying dragon-shaped aura of the throne room. It is not so easy to develop the dragon vein. It is very difficult for warriors without dragon chi to enter the dragon vein. Even if the Azure Emperor's cultivation has reached the Emperor realm, it is extremely difficult for him to enter the dragon vein. Xiao He said with some doubts. Do you mean that it is very difficult for warriors without dragon souls to enter the dragon vein? However, the Azure Emperor seems to be developing the dragon vein now. It is obvious that the Azure Emperor has entered the dragon vein before. Zhuowen said with a frown. Yes. The dragon vein has indeed been developed before. However, it was not developed by the Azure Emperor. It should have been developed by a warrior with a powerful dragon soul. Moreover, this dragon soul warrior is probably not weak. Xiao He suddenly said with certainty. Upon hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He said, if that is the case, does it mean that there is a warrior with a powerful dragon soul in the imperial family? Could it be an elite from the Blue Dragon Hall? The possibility of an elite from the Blue Dragon Hall is not high. The Blue Dragon Hall is a big family with a big business. They would not care too much about such a small dragon vein. This is also why the Azure Emperor was able to build the imperial city on top of the dragon vein. Xiao He shook her head. Zhuowen nodded in agreement. How could a big family like the Blue Dragon Hall send an elite to help the Azure Emperor develop the dragon vein? Then, other than the elite from the Blue Dragon Hall, who else could have a powerful dragon soul? An elite from the Ryuka clan? Suddenly, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. Other than the Blue Dragon Hall, warriors with dragon souls were from the Ryuka clan. Could there be another elite from the Ryuka clan in the imperial family? As he thought of this, Zhuowen's eyes lit up with excitement. He did not expect to meet someone from the Ryuka clan who had also awakened a dragon soul. Don't be happy too early. We still don't know if it is someone from the Blue Dragon Hall or someone from the Ryuka clan. Moreover, the Ryuka clan and the Blue Dragon Hall are like fire and water. Don't expose your identity. Let's wait and see. Xiao He suddenly said in a serious tone. Zhuowen nodded. He could not expose his identity as a Ryuka clan descendant. Once exposed, he would be hunted down by the Blue Dragon Hall. Zhuowen was not that stupid. Later, I will use the power of the dragon vein to help you increase your cultivation. Don't resist. Standing in front of the altar, the Azure Emperor spoke again. His eyes were fixed on the altar. The 10 people in the hall nodded seriously. They sat cross-legged in the hall and quietly adjusted the energy in their bodies, preparing to receive the enlightenment from the Azure Emperor. The Azure Emperor formed a seal with his hands and pressed them on the altar. Suddenly, the gem on the altar emitted a strong green light. This green light shot up into the sky and into the dragon-shaped aura in the sky. Roar! Suddenly, the huge dragon-shaped chi field roared at the sky, and the transparent body turned green. Then, it suddenly exploded into 10 smaller green chi dragons. Whoosh! 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 The 10 azure dragons turned into 10 rays of green light and instantly shot toward the 10 figures in the hall and entered their chests. Zhuowen only felt a chill in his chest. He could clearly feel that after the azure dragon chi entered his body, it split into countless azure chi and spread throughout his 8 extraordinary meridians. It constantly nourished his meridians, causing them to become even more resilient and powerful. What kind of harvest the 10 of you can reap will depend on your own luck. The Azure Emperor silently looked at the 10 people in the hall who were sitting cross-legged and refining the Azure Dragon Aura. This Azure Dragon Aura is very powerful. Kid, with your current strength, it will be very difficult for you to make full use of it. Let this Dragon Lord help you. In his sea of consciousness, Xiao He chuckled. With a wave of its little paw, a black mist spread out and flowed through Zhuowen's meridians to all parts of Zhuowen's body. The strange thing was that this ink-black fog actually formed a layer of ink-black film on the surface of Zhuowen's meridians. The green dragon aura that had not been fully utilized should have originally escaped the body through the meridians. However, it was now completely absorbed by this black film. All the Azure Dragon Aura that was not fully utilized was basically completely absorbed by this black film. The rest of the Azure Dragon Aura was absorbed by Zhuowen's body. As Zhuowen continued to refine the Azure Dragon Aura in his body, his aura became increasingly powerful. However, when it reached the limit, there was a rumbling sound as Zhuowen broke through to the Ultimate Emperor realm. Countless tribulation clouds descended from the sky. Aside from Zhuowen who had broken through, the others had also broken through. Tribulation clouds descended from the sky one after another, and the gigantic dark clouds were like gigantic black dragons. The tribulation clouds formed by everyone breaking through together were extremely terrifying, and almost shook the entire imperial capital. The Azure Emperor's expression was cold. With a wave of his sleeve, a terrifying energy soared into the sky. Soon after, the terrifying tribulation clouds in the sky all collapsed and were annihilated. The tribulation clouds of the Ultimate Emperor realm were nothing to the Azure Emperor. He could destroy them with a wave of his hand. Time passed by minute by minute. Half a day later, the lightless monk, Zhu Bai, and Huangfu Wuji opened their eyes at the same time. Their eyes were filled with a sharp light. Absorbing the Azure Dragon aura was of great help to their cultivation. The lightless monk had broken through to the early stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm. Huangfu Wuji had reached the peak of the Ultimate Emperor realm. As for Zhu Bai, he had reached the early stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm. The three of them had made great gains. The three of you withdraw first. The Azure Emperor flicked his sleeve. The lightless monk, Huangfu Wuji, and Zhu Bai retreated to the side of the hall, silently observing the changes in the other seven. They were well aware that the longer they stayed in the Azure Dragon aura, the greater the benefits they would reap. The three of them were the first to awaken, so their gains were obviously not as great as the other seven. That little bastard Zhuowen was actually able to persist for so long. Huangfu Wuji frowned as he looked at Zhuowen, who was still sitting cross-legged in the center of the hall. His eyes revealed a cold light. Another half a day passed. Glen Baihe, Murongzhan, Qing Ming, and Guosheng also opened their eyes. The four of them were filled with excitement. The benefits that the Azure Dragon aura had brought them this time were not small. Moreover, the four of them had all broken through to the Ultimate Emperor realm. Guosheng had made great progress, directly advancing from the early stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm to the early stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm. Qing Ming and Murongzhan had both advanced to the middle stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm. As for Glen Baihe, his progress was even more terrifying than Guosheng's. He had directly advanced to the late stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm. Now, only Zhuowen, Qing Yan, and Huangfu Wudao were left refining the Azure Dragon aura. The three of them silently sat cross-legged like old monks, motionless. No one was surprised that Qing Yan and Huangfu Wudao had been able to persist for so long. After all, Huangfu Wudao was the first on the Azure Emperor list. His strength and potential were top-notch. Qing Yan was mysterious and strange. In the top 5 battles, he had defeated Murongzhan in one move. He had become famous overnight. It was normal for him to be able to persist until now. However, Zhuowen was the same as the other two. He had no intention of getting up. Chapter 748. SS Trash is worse than trash. The Azure Dragon Qi in Zhuowen's body had almost been completely absorbed and refined by him. Logically speaking, Zhuowen should have woken up by now. However, Xiao He had used her own power to form an ink-colored membrane on the surface of Zhuowen's meridians. This membrane could store the Azure Dragon Qi that had escaped. Originally, with Zhuowen's strength, he would have been able to absorb 50% of the Azure Dragon Qi. However, with the membrane formed by Xiao He's power, Zhuowen could use the remaining 50%. This was also the reason why Zhuowen had been able to hold on until now. Standing before the altar, the Qing Emperor's deep eyes glanced at Zhuowen. There was a hint of contemplation in his eyes. Rumble. A terrifying aura, like that of a ferocious beast, filled the entire hall. The majestic throne room seemed to tremble violently because of this aura. Qing Yan, who had been sitting cross-legged in the hall, slowly opened his eyes and looked up at the sky. There was a hint of sadness in his eyes. Then, the terrifying aura receded like the tide. You want to break through to the Xuanzuan realm? Now is not enough. However, with your cultivation level, this day will not be too far away. The Qing Emperor stared at Qing Yan with a smile. Qing Yan had almost been able to communicate with the heavens and earth. At that time, a nascent soul would have descended from the void and allowed Qing Yan to completely transform into a powerhouse of the Xuanzuan realm. Unfortunately, Qing Yan had woken up too early. The energy he had absorbed was not enough for him to communicate with the heavens and earth. This was also why Qing Yan looked disappointed. When the Qing Emperor said this, the other 7 geniuses in the hall were shocked. The Qing Emperor's words undoubtedly indicated that Qing Yan already had the qualifications to break through to the Xuanzuan realm. It was just that he was not mature enough. When they thought of the terrifying aura that had burst out of Qing Yan's body, which was far more powerful than the peak of the ultimate Nine-Will Emperor realm, it was obvious that Qing Yan had reached the level of half a step into the Xuanzuan realm. In just a few months, in an environment with abundant energy, Qing Yan had a 90% chance of becoming a mystique venerable one. Qing Yan nodded and didn't say anything. He was clear about his own situation. After this marquee battle, he planned to go back to the Azure Dragon subsidiary hall to cultivate in seclusion. When the time came, he would break through to the Xuanzuan realm in one go. Once he reached the Xuanzuan realm, Qing Yan would be able to materialize his dragon soul. At that time, Qing Yan would be invincible in the Xuanzuan realm. He might even be able to fight against a supremacy. The other 7 people looked at Qing Yan with fear in their eyes. Qing Yan had a terrifying dragon soul and was now half a step into the Xuanzuan realm. Huangfu Wudao was probably the only one who could suppress this person. After all, martial artists with dragon souls would undergo a transformation after reaching the realm of 4 venerables. Their strength would increase by leaps and bounds, and it would be easier for them to fight those of a higher realm. The corners of Qing Yan's mouth curled up when he felt the other 7 people's gazes. There was a trace of complacency in his eyes as he glanced at Huangfu Wudao, who was not far away. Among the 10 great geniuses, the only one that he was afraid of was the first prince, Huangfu Wudao. Even though he had a dragon soul, he still felt a little helpless against Huangfu Wudao. Although he could guess that Huangfu Wudao might be able to last longer than him, there was still a trace of a desire to compete in his heart. Now, seeing that Huangfu Wudao was still sitting cross-legged, Qing Yan's eyes flickered and his brows were slightly furrowed. There was a faint trace of unwillingness in his heart. Qing Yan shook his head and was about to get up when his gaze suddenly fell on another figure not far away from Huangfu Wudao. His entire body froze on the spot. His gaze was even more stunned as he remained motionless. This was because other than Huangfu Wudao, there was another person sitting cross-legged in the center of the hall. He was still silently refining the Azure Dragon Qi, and there was no sign of him getting up. It's him. Qing Yan's pupils shrank as he immediately recognized that figure. It was the genius of Muqin County, Zhuowen. This Zhuowen had left quite a deep impression on him. In the group stage, he had consecutively killed the number 1 geniuses of the Feng and Chao families, Feng Yong and Chao Yan. In the top 5 battles, he had even defeated the second prince, Huangfu Wuji, and entered the top 5. Although this was the case, Qing Yan still did not place Zhuowen in his eyes. Feng Yong, Chao Yan and Huangfu Wuji were no different from trash in his eyes. If he were to take action, he would be able to defeat the 3 of them in one move. Therefore, Qing Yan did not care too much about Zhuowen. But now, the Zhuowen that he did not care about was actually able to last longer than him while refining the Azure Dragon Qi. Qing Yan was naturally unconvinced. Is this kid putting on an act? Qing Yan frowned as he found an excuse for himself. Then, he slowly walked up to a pillar on the side of the hall. He silently observed the 2 figures sitting cross-legged in the center of the hall. Time passed slowly. With a muffled sound, Zhuowen, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly burst forth with a terrifying aura. At that moment, Zhuowen had broken through again. He had broken through to the ultimate emperor realm. 9 heavenly tribulation wheels gathered in the sky. However, with the Azure Emperor guarding them, these 9 heavenly tribulation wheels were simply unable to do anything and were directly annihilated. Why is this little bastard still refining the azure dragon chi? Huang Fu Wuji's pupils shrank. Zhuowen's cultivation had originally been at the peak of the ultimate emperor realm. But now, after absorbing the azure dragon chi, he had directly soared to the ultimate emperor realm. Everyone knew that Zhuowen's utilization of the azure dragon chi was much higher than theirs. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to break through so quickly. This kid is quite interesting. The Azure Emperor nodded. He was becoming more and more interested in Zhuowen. Another half a day passed. After Zhuowen broke through to the Ultimate Emperor realm, his aura continued to rise until it reached the late stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm. When his aura soared to the late stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm, it finally stopped increasing. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes, revealing an unconcealable joy. He could clearly feel that his current aura was much stronger than it had been at the beginning. Late-stage Ultimate Emperor realm? Zhuowen's eyes flashed. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up. This time, the Azure Dragon Chi had been of great help to him. Of course, he knew that the main reason he was able to break through so quickly was because of Xiao He. If Xiao He hadn't sealed and stored the dissipating Azure Dragon Chi, allowing him to use the Azure Dragon Chi to 100%, he wouldn't have been able to reach the Ultimate Emperor realm. At most, he would have been at the peak of the Ultimate Emperor realm. Grand Lily's pretty face gradually darkened. She hadn't expected Zhuowen to benefit so much from the Azure Dragon Chi. His cultivation had advanced so quickly that he had also reached the late stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm. She knew that if she were to fight against Zhuowen now, it would be difficult to predict the outcome. After all, their cultivation was the same. Moreover, Zhuowen had 5th grade spiritual power. It would be very difficult to deal with Zhuowen. Slowly getting up, Zhuowen walked to the side of the main hall. He wasn't in a hurry to leave the main hall. Instead, he waited in the main hall like the other geniuses. His gaze was focused on Huang Fu Wudao. Zhuowen knew very well that Huang Fu Wudao's cultivation was unfathomable. His strength was abnormally terrifying. Even a border general at the peak of the Ultimate Emperor realm had been killed in one move. Zhuowen guessed that Huang Fu Wudao's cultivation should be half a step into the Xuanzuan realm. With such a cultivation, coupled with the opportunity he had obtained from the Azure Dragon Chi, it was very likely that Huang Fu Wudao would directly break through to the Xuanzuan realm. Although Zhuowen had seen many experts from the Xuanzuan realm, he had never seen the process of a cultivator breaking through to the Xuanzuan realm. Therefore, Zhuowen naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity to see it. After all, it would be very beneficial for him to advance to the Xuanzuan realm in the future. You're Zhuowen. When Zhuowen walked to Qing Yan's side, Qing Yan suddenly spoke with his back against the purple gold pillar. This caused Zhuowen's footsteps to falter slightly. He tilted his head to look at Qing Yan and said, "What's the matter?" Zhuowen's reply caused Qing Yan's eyes to narrow slightly. He said indifferently, "I'm just curious. How can you refine the Azure Dragon Chi for so long? You're just a piece of trash whose strength is inferior to mine. You shouldn't be able to surpass me in terms of time." Qing Yan was still a little resentful that Zhuowen had lasted longer than him in the Azure Dragon Chi. His voice was slightly provocative at this moment. A cold glint flashed across Zhuowen's eyes when Qing Yan's words were spoken. How could he not know what Qing Yan was thinking at this moment? It was likely that Qing Yan had originally thought highly of himself. Now that he was surpassed by this unknown brat in terms of refining the green dragon aura, Zhuowen felt somewhat displeased in his heart. But the truth is that you lasted shorter than me in refining the Azure Dragon Chi, right? And then you say I'm a piece of trash. Since you can't even compare to a piece of trash like me, then what are you? Zhuowen turned his head and stared at Qing Yan. He suddenly retorted, causing Qing Yan's expression to freeze. He said that Zhuowen was a piece of trash, but in reality, he did not last as long as Zhuowen in refining the Azure Dragon Chi. His words were simply slapping his own face. Ha! You can't even compare to a piece of trash like me, and you actually have the face to put on that high and mighty attitude of yours in front of me. Little do you know that in my opinion, you're worse than a piece of trash. Speaking up to here, Zhuowen's voice suddenly became clear and loud, causing the gazes of the other geniuses in the main hall to converge on him. Through the azure dragon mask, Qing Yan's eyes narrowed slightly. There was a trace of a piercingly cold light flickering within. This Zhuowen in front of him really dared to say anything. No wonder he even dared to kill Chao Yan and Feng Yong. He was indeed extremely daring. Good, good. I rather admire your courage and insight, but you have to know that people like you who surpass others basically won't live for long. Qing Yan suddenly said in a cold voice. Oh. Are you done? If you're done, then you can shut up. Zhuowen's expression was indifferent. After he finished speaking, he directly brushed past Qing Yan. He was too lazy to speak with a genius like Qing Yan who thought too highly of himself. Creak. Qing Yan clenched his fists slightly, and a deep chill appeared in his eyes. Zhuowen didn't give him any face at all. If it weren't for the fact that they were in the throne room, he would have killed this guy who spoke nonsense on the spot. What a stupid little bastard. He even dares to offend Qing Yan. When the time comes, he will suffer. The small disturbance between Qing Yan and Zhuowen was naturally seen by the other geniuses on the other side of the main hall. Among them, Huangfu Wuji's eyes were filled with schadenfreude. Huangfu Wuji did not deliberately lower his voice. Everyone in the main hall could clearly hear him. A piece of trash like you thinks you have the qualifications to jump around in front of me? Chapter 749. Armor Soul Hydra. Zhuowen, you little bastard, how dare you? Huangfu Wuji glared at Zhuowen, his voice growing colder and colder. Huangfu Wuji was the second prince and had an honorable status. Yet, in Zhuowen's mouth, he had been reduced to trash. How could Huangfu Wuji not be angry? What? You want to fight? Staring at Huangfu Wuji, the corners of Zhuowen's lips curled up. His voice grew colder and his eyes contained a trace of killing intent. If Huangfu Wuji dared to attack, then Zhuowen could immediately counterattack. Like this, he would have enough reason to cripple Huangfu Wuji. After all, with his current strength, Huangfu Wuji simply wasn't his match. Although Huangfu Wuji was the second prince, the Blue Emperor didn't place as much importance on him as Huangfu Wudao. Moreover, Zhuowen's talent far surpassed Huangfu Wuji's. If Huangfu Wuji attacked first and was then crippled by Zhuowen, then Zhuowen knew that it was impossible for the Blue Emperor to make things difficult for him. After all, he was currently one of the top 5 geniuses on the Blue Emperor proclamation. Moreover, he was on the side of reason. As these words came out, Huangfu Wuji froze. He was only at the peak of the ultimate emperor realm. As for Zhuowen, he had relied on the energy of the Azure Dragon to break through to the late Ultimate Emperor realm. The difference between the two was like the heavens and the earth. Would Huangfu Wuji dare to attack Zhuowen? Your Highness Second Prince, I, Zhuowen, challenge you to a life or death battle. Do you dare to accept? Zhuowen stepped forwards, his eyes fixed on Huangfu Wuji. His voice was clear and resonant, like a great bell that rumbled through the entire hall. Life or death battle. The other geniuses all looked at Zhuowen in shock. They all knew that when Zhuowen's cultivation was at the peak of the Ultimate Emperor realm, he had already been able to defeat Huangfu Wuji. Now, Zhuowen's cultivation had risen in a straight line, reaching the late Ultimate Emperor realm. As for Huangfu Wuji, he was only at the peak of the Ultimate Emperor realm. If the two of them fought in a life or death battle, Huangfu Wuji would undoubtedly suffer a crushing defeat. Huangfu Wuji's pupils shrank to the size of needles. He stubbornly glared at Zhuowen, all the hairs on his body standing on end. His complexion was gloomy to the extreme. How could the current him dare to fight Zhuowen to the death? There was no doubt that he would lose this battle. Your Highness, I, Zhuowen, challenge you to a battle of life and death. Zhuowen stepped forwards, his eyes still locked onto Huangfu Wuji. His voice was as cold as ice, and a terrifying aura swept out, causing Huangfu Wuji to involuntarily take a step back. Looking at the retreating Huangfu Wuji, Zhuowen sneered and restrained his terrifying aura. He faintly said, "Was I wrong to call you trash? You don't even dare to accept my deathmatch. What right do you have to bark like a dog in front of me?" Zhuowen's words were loud and clear, each word striking at the heart. Huangfu Wuji's complexion alternated between green and white. In particular, the surrounding geniuses all had strange looks in their eyes, causing Huangfu Wuji to feel even more ashamed. He, Huangfu Wuji, the dignified second prince of the imperial family, had actually been scared into retreating because of a few words from Zhuowen. To him, this was simply a great shame. However, he didn't dare to accept the challenge, nor did he dare to speak. Zhuowen had already reached the peak of his strength, and he simply wasn't his match. Accepting the challenge was undoubtedly bringing about his own destruction. Zhuowen shook his head, looking at Huangfu Wuji with ridicule in his eyes. Then, he arrived at the closest purple gold pillar, silently watching the center of the hall, where there was only one figure sitting cross-legged there. Huangfu Wuji also dejectedly retreated to a corner, but the hatred in his eyes became even more intense. Bang! A sound like muffled thunder exploded in the air. Then, a terrifying aura spread out like a tsunami, filling the entire hall. Suddenly, the air around the entire hall seemed to freeze. A terrifying gravity filled the entire hall. Zhuowen's body sank, his knees slightly bent. If he hadn't circulated his energy in advance, then he would have been in an extremely difficult situation under this sudden gravity. What a terrifying aura! Is Huangfu Wudao about to break through? Zhuowen's gaze focused slightly as he stared at the figure that sat cross-legged at the center of the hall. At this moment, Huangfu Wudao's eyes suddenly opened, and a sharp bright light flickered within them like the stars in the night sky. Then, Huangfu Wudao slowly stood up, looking up at the sky. An even more terrifying aura surged out, gathering above Huangfu Wudao. Finally, it formed a huge pillar of light that soared into the sky, communicating with heaven and earth. On the altar, Emperor Qing looked at the pillar of light that soared into the sky, and a trace of joy appeared in his eyes. He knew that Huangfu Wudao was about to break through to the Xuanzun realm. Zhuowen, Qing Yan, and the other geniuses around the hall also raised their heads, staring at the pillar of light that soared into the sky. At the same time, all the warriors in the imperial capital also raised their heads, looking up at the huge pillar of light. Most of them had already guessed what was going on. Someone has broken through to the Xuanzun realm. On the high platform in the square, many powerful figures also looked up at the sky. They naturally knew that one of the top 10 geniuses had broken through to the Xuanzun realm under Emperor Qing's empowerment. It should be Huangfu Wudao. Before the empowerment, Huangfu Wudao was already half a step into the Xuanzun realm. Now, after the empowerment, he should be able to break through to the Xuanzun realm directly. Everyone guessed that the person who had broken through should be Huangfu Wudao. After all, Huangfu Wudao's strength and cultivation were obvious to everyone. Under Emperor Qing's empowerment, it would not be difficult for him to break through to the Xuanzun realm. Crack! A crisp sound slowly resounded through the sky. At the end of the pillar of light, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the illusory void, and a light figure slowly descended from the crack. If one looked closely, this light figure was actually the image of a baby. The baby's face was blurry, and its body was curled up. Its eyes were tightly shut, as if it was still in the womb of a pregnant woman. Is this a nascent soul? Zhuowen's eyes were filled with curiosity as he watched the baby's light figure slowly descend from the crack in the void. The energy within this nascent soul was much denser than that of an ultimate emperor realm cultivator. It was an energy bestowed by the heavens. This was also part of the reason why the four venerables were much stronger than the ultimate emperor realm cultivators. Under everyone's gazes, the radiant nascent soul finally descended above Huangfu Wudao's head. It then entered his body through his Tianling acupoint. Boom! As soon as the nascent soul entered his body, the aura within Huangfu Wudao's body became even more terrifying. Countless terrifying gales swept up around his body, and his entire body was filled with a dazzling white light. In the Great Hall, except for Emperor Qing, the other 9 geniuses could not help but retreat from the gales that were spreading in all directions. Even Zhuowen had to retreat dozens of steps before he could barely stabilize his body. His gaze landed on Huangfu Wudao's body, and his expression was filled with shock. Huangfu Wudao was terrifying. He had just advanced to the Xuanzuan realm, but the aura he displayed was actually much stronger than that of an ordinary Xuanzuan realm cultivator. Oh! The moment the nascent soul entered Huangfu Wudao's body, a brutal and terrifying roar burst out from his body. It was as if a terrifying beast had been sealed within Huangfu Wudao's body and was being released at this moment. Countless purple tentacles gushed out from Huangfu Wudao's body. They were densely packed and covered an area of several meters. Amidst the countless purple tentacles, a huge purple snake head suddenly swept out from behind Huangfu Wudao. This purple snake's head was several dozen feet long, and its purple scales reflected a strange purple light under the scorching sun. 2 fangs that were several feet long grew out of its mouth, and they emitted a cold light. This is Huangfu Wudao's armor soul. Zhuowen's eyes slowly narrowed as he looked at the purple snake that had suddenly emerged from Huangfu Wudao's body. He could feel a strong sense of danger from the purple snake. After the first purple snake head emerged, another puffing sound was heard. Then the second purple snake head emerged, followed by the third, the fourth. When the 9th purple snake head drilled out, this terrifying giant beast suddenly leaped out and completely drilled out of Huangfu Wudao's body. Its enormous body almost blotted out the sky as it floated in midair. Only then did Zhuowen see the true face of this giant beast. This giant beast had a huge body, and on its huge body were 9 huge purple snake heads. 9-headed snake. Huangfu Wudao's armor soul was actually a 9-headed snake. The 9-headed snake was an extremely powerful existence in ancient times. Although it was much weaker than a high-level true dragon, it was much stronger than most low-level true dragons. It was a well-known savage beast in ancient times. Qing Yan's eyes flickered as he looked at the 9-headed snake that floated in midair with a dignified expression. Although he had a dragon soul in his body, it was only a 3rd-grade dragon soul. In ancient times, a 3rd-grade true dragon was considered a low-level true dragon, and its strength was slightly weaker than a 9-headed snake. Therefore, Huangfu Wudao's 9-headed snake armor soul was actually much stronger than Qing Yan's 3rd-grade dragon soul. If the two were of the same level, Qing Yan might not be a match for it in a battle. Moreover, Huangfu Wudao was 1 step ahead of him and had arrived in the Xuanzuan realm first. It was even more impossible for Qing Yan to be a match for Huangfu Wudao. Thinking of this, Qing Yan felt a little helpless. He originally thought that after learning the Blue Dragon Hall's unique skill, the Green Dragon technique, his strength had greatly increased. Coupled with the dragon soul in his body, he already had the strength to compete with Huangfu Wudao. But now it seemed that he was left far behind by Huangfu Wudao. After all, Huangfu Wudao was stronger than him, and so was his armor soul. What did he have to compete with Huangfu Wudao? Awoo! The 9-headed snake faced the sky and roared. In this long roar, there was an endless joy. Then, the 9 heads looked down at Huangfu Wudao, a trace of coldness in their eyes. What? This king has already materialized your armor soul. Are you not willing to listen to this king? Huangfu Wudao had his hands behind his back as he stared fearlessly at the 9-headed snake above his head. His indifferent and cruel voice slowly resounded. This 9-headed snake was indeed extraordinary. It actually had a bit of spiritual wisdom, and at this time, it actually showed signs of wanting to devour its master. Awoo! The nine-headed snake roared and swooped down toward Huangfu Wudao, all 9 heads attacking him at the same time. Hee hee. You really are a beast with a personality, but this king likes it. Let this king teach you a good lesson. Chapter 750. Those who submit will prosper, those who resist will perish. Rumble. 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 Huangfu Wudao's entire body was covered in terrifying blades of energy as he transformed into a flowing light that instantly collided with the 9-headed snake. A sound that was like muffled thunder resounded throughout the entire hall. After that, everyone noticed to their astonishment that Huangfu Wudao was actually fighting the 9-headed snake bare-handed without the slightest fear, and he even grew more courageous as he fought. Huangfu Wudao was tiny like an ant when compared to the 9-headed snake's enormous body, yet he faintly showed signs of suppressing the 9-headed snake. Rumble. A black shadow suddenly shot out from midair and smashed heavily onto the center of the hall, causing the ground to shatter and form an enormous pit. Everyone looked over and actually noticed that it was the terrifying 9-headed snake that had been struck down from midair. At this moment, the scales on the surface of the 9-headed snake's violet-colored heads had practically split apart while violet-colored blood ceaselessly gushed out like a small stream, and it formed a violet-colored pool within the deep pit. Huangfu Wudao silently floated in midair as he looked down at the 9-headed snake within the pit, and then he grinned and said, "You still want to try?" Awoo! The 9-headed snake roared loudly, but its roar was filled with terror because Huangfu Wudao was its master, and he was too terrifying. Hee hee. Those who submit will prosper, those who resist will perish. As my soul armor, you should obediently submit to me. Come back. Huangfu Wudao flicked his sleeve, causing the 9-headed snake below to transform into a violet ray of light that entered Huangfu Wudao's body once more, whereas, Huangfu Wudao slowly descended to the ground of the hall. At the same time, the Qing Emperor slowly walked down from the altar and arrived at the center of the hall, and then he glanced at Huangfu Wudao with a rather satisfied gaze and said, "The 9-headed snake has an unruly disposition and will absolutely not submit completely. You have to properly train it in the future." Huangfu Wudao nodded and said rather respectfully, "Thank you for your reminder, Your Highness. I'll remember your teachings." The top 5 of the Qing Emperor rankings, step forward. The Qing Emperor nodded, and then his gaze converged onto the other geniuses as he spoke in a clear voice. As soon as these words were spoken, Zhuowen, Glen Baihe, Zhu Bai, and Qing Yan walked out at the same time and arrived before the Qing Emperor with gazes that carried a wisp of anticipation. They all knew that their reward this time was related to the quota for the Divine Arts Academy's entrance exam. Being able to enter the top 5 is enough to prove that you have extremely strong potential. Therefore, this jade talisman is what you deserve. As he spoke, the Azure the Arch waved his sleeves, and 5 jade-colored spots of light shot out and landed in the palms of the 5 people. Zhuowen's gaze focused on the jade talisman. On the surface of the jade talisman, there were 2 engraved words, Jia Shen. This is the qualification jade token for the Divine Academy's entrance examination. Only by holding this jade token will you have the qualifications to participate in the upcoming entrance examination, Emperor Qing said indifferently. Your Highness Emperor Qing, when will Jiaxin College's entrance exam begin? Zhu Bai, who had been silent, suddenly asked. The Excellent Gods Institute's examination is held once every 10 years. This time, the examination will begin in half a year's time. At that time, this emperor will personally bring you to the Excellent Gods Institute. The Cyan Emperor nodded. Now that this emperor has given out all the rewards, the 10 of you can leave. As for the 5 of you, go back and recuperate properly. Prepare for the marquee battle in 9 days. At that time, this emperor will personally confer the title of marquis to the top 3 and enjoy supreme status and glory. The Cyan Emperor waved his sleeves and disappeared from the hall, leaving behind Huangfu Wudao and the other 9 people in the hall looking at each other in dismay. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he stared at the dragon-shaped qi field that had condensed in the air above the throne room. If what Xiao He said was true, there were many dragon veins below the throne room. Zhuowen's heart couldn't help but stir. The dragon vein qi was of great help to Xiao He. Moreover, he could rely on the dragon vein qi that Xiao He absorbed to continuously cultivate. To Zhuowen, this was a supreme treasure. Brat! Don't be rash. This throne room isn't as simple as you think. The Cyan Emperor isn't simple either. If you want to break into the dragon vein below the throne room, I'm afraid it'll be very difficult. Xiao He's solemn voice instantly resounded in his mind. She was afraid that Zhuowen would be rash. At that time, if the Cyan Emperor discovered them, they would all be finished. Although the Cyan Emperor usually looked amiable and his smile was like a spring breeze, his methods were even more tyrannical and cruel than Huangfu Wudao. This was also why the Cyan Emperor could rule the Qing Xian Empire for so long. If the Cyan Emperor didn't have extraordinary methods, it was very unlikely that he could rule such a huge territory like the Qing Xian Empire. Zhuowen nodded and said, I know. The Cyan Emperor's methods are strange and unpredictable. I won't act rashly. However, Xiao He, do you have any way to sneak into the dragon vein? Zhuowen still didn't want to let go of the dragon vein below the throne room. After all, it was too important to him and Xiao He. He couldn't stay calm at all. Yes. However, it will take some time. After all, the Cyan Emperor is an Emperor realm expert. If you want to sneak into the dragon vein without anyone noticing, I'm afraid you'll have to make sufficient preparations. I'll take care of this. When the time is right, I'll tell you, Xiao He said indifferently. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. He had blind confidence in Xiao He. After all, Xiao He's origin was mysterious and she wasn't simple. She knew a lot more than him. Thinking of this, Zhuowen planned to leave the throne room directly. However, when he turned around, a figure unknowingly blocked his path. Looking at the figure in front of him, Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, Qing Yan? Why are you blocking my path? The figure blocking Zhuowen's path was Qing Yan from the Azure Dragon Branch Hall. At this moment, Qing Yan's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. He smiled and said, I hope we can meet in 9 days. At that time, I'll let you know how to behave. Oh. Did you block my way just to say this nonsense? Since you're done, you can move aside now. Zhuowen replied coldly. This caused Qing Yan's face to stiffen. His eyes narrowed dangerously, but he still moved aside. Now was not the time to deal with Zhuowen. After 9 days, his eyes would eventually meet Zhuowen's. At that time, he would let this arrogant brat in front of him have a good taste of defeat. After passing by Qing Yan, Zhuowen stepped out of the throne room. The square outside the throne room was still crowded with people. It was bustling with noise and excitement. After walking out of the throne room, Zhuowen went directly to Lu Hantian's side. The other geniuses also returned to the sides of the leaders of their respective factions. Zhuowen. You've broken through to the late stage of the Nine-Will Emperor realm? Lu Hantian's eyes flashed. He could see Zhuowen's cultivation at a glance. A trace of shock appeared in his eyes. Before entering the throne room, Zhuowen was only at the peak of the Seven-Will Emperor realm. Now, after 1 day, Zhuowen had directly advanced to the late stage of the Nine-Will Emperor realm. This was too fast. Although there was the effect of the Azure Emperor's enlightenment, Zhuowen's cultivation had jumped by almost 2 major realms. Anyone with a discerning eye could see how much Zhuowen had benefited in the throne room this time. When Lu Hantian said this, Lu Nantian, who was standing beside him, had a very interesting expression on his face. His mouth was slightly open, but he couldn't say a word for a long time. I was lucky enough to reach it. Zhuowen nodded and smiled. Well done, kid. With your cultivation, you probably have the possibility of entering the top 3. I'm really looking forward to your performance in the marquee battle in 9 days. Lu Hantian laughed loudly and patted Zhuowen's back. He couldn't stop laughing and his face was full of joy. Lu Nantian beside him was also very happy. Zhuowen had really won glory for Muqin County this time. Not only had he entered the top 10 of the Emperor rankings, but he had even entered the top 5. Now, with the Emperor Qing's enlightenment, his cultivation had skyrocketed. He had jumped 2 realms and reached the late stage of the 9-will Emperor realm. This was too terrifying. At this moment, there were many geniuses from Muqin County standing behind Lu Hantian. When they heard Lu Hantian say that Zhuowen's cultivation had reached the late stage of the 9-will Emperor realm, everyone's faces were filled with shock. Zhuowen's improvement was too fast. It was so fast that they felt that it was unreal. Lu Yitao silently stared at Zhuowen's back. There was a hint of bitterness at the corner of his mouth. He never expected that this young man, who he didn't pay attention to in the Origin Qi Tower, would have left him so far behind. Qing Lian and Luo Xing looked at Zhuowen with a faint smile and a different kind of emotion in their eyes. Zhuowen had now become the soul of Muqin County. At this moment, his every action represented the benchmark of the younger generation of Muqin County. Let's go. Let's go back and celebrate. How can we not celebrate Zhuowen's achievements? Lu Hantian laughed loudly and was about to leave the square with his team. Brother Hantian, wait a moment. I still have some trivial matters to take care of, Zhuowen suddenly said. Oh. What is it? Lu Hantian paused and asked in confusion. Letter of divorce. After Zhuowen spat out these words, he walked straight towards the Grand Family's team. Lu Hantian, who was standing behind him, raised his eyebrows. He still understood Zhuowen's meaning. Back then, the Grand Family came aggressively to the Zhuo family to break off the engagement. In the end, they were rejected, so the two made an agreement. If Zhuowen's results could surpass Grand Lily's on the Green Emperor board, then the Grand Family would accept the letter of divorce. If he couldn't surpass it, then Zhuowen would give up the marriage contract. Everyone in the Grand Family also noticed Zhuowen walking straight towards them. All of them had unfriendly gazes, especially Grand Daffodil, who was standing in the middle of the group. Back then, she was the one who brought people to the Zhuo family to break off the engagement. However, she didn't expect that she would make a fool of herself in the hands of Zhuowen. Therefore, she hated Zhuowen to the bone. Grand Haohai stared at Zhuowen, who was walking over, and said coldly, Zhuowen, what is the meaning of this? Standing 10 meters away from Grand Haohai, Zhuowen took out a marriage contract from his bosom and said indifferently, Grand Patriarch, you shouldn't have forgotten the agreement between us, right? Looking at the marriage contract in Zhuowen's hands, Grand Haohai's face twitched, and he said in a low voice, Of course I won't forget, but what are you trying to do now? Your results don't seem to have surpassed Lily's. Hee hee. This is only a matter of time. 9 days later, I, Zhuowen, will personally eliminate this bitch beside you, and then completely divorce her. Chapter 751. Sarira, Zhuowen. You better watch your mouth. How could my sister allow you to insult her like this? Within the group, Grand Narcissus raised her hand and pointed at Zhuowen as she shouted. I'm only speaking the truth. How could I insult her? 9 days from now, the marquee battle will be the battle of divorce. After he finished speaking, Zhuowen no longer paid any attention to the Grand Family group. He returned to the Muqin County group and left the Imperial City under the command of Lu Hantian. Sister. This Zhuowen is too arrogant. 9 days from now, you must teach this brat a lesson. Grand Narcissus stomped her feet in anger, but she did not notice the silent Grand Lily. Although Zhuowen's performance in the top 5 had been very strong and he had even defeated Huangfu Wuji, she was well aware of Grand Lily's strength. After receiving the Azure Emperor's blessing, her cultivation had already reached the late stage of the ultimate emperor realm. In Grand Narcissus' eyes, Zhuowen's cultivation had only been at the peak of the ultimate emperor realm. Even with the Azure Emperor's blessing, his cultivation was at most around the ultimate emperor realm. It was simply impossible for him to be a match for the late-stage ultimate emperor realm Grand Lily. Against Zhuowen, I don't have much confidence. Suddenly, the silent Grand Lily opened her mouth. But the words she spoke caused Grand Narcissus' face to freeze. Her beautiful eyes stared at Grand Lily as she forced a smile. Sister, are you joking? You are now a late-stage ultimate emperor realm powerhouse. Zhuowen jumped 2 realms in a row under the Azure Emperor's blessing. His cultivation level is the same as mine, which is the late-stage ultimate 9 Wheels Emperor realm. I don't have much confidence in defeating Zhuowen, Grand Lily suddenly spoke again. When these words came out, not only was Grand Narcissus stunned, but the other members of the Grand Family group were also stunned. They never thought that Zhuowen's cultivation had also reached the late-stage ultimate emperor realm. Lily. Is this true? Grand Haohai frowned slightly, but his heart sank with a thump. If what Grand Lily said was true, then Zhuowen was really too terrifying. His cultivation was no weaker than Grand Lily's, and he had mastered the terrifying spear intent. Coupled with his 5th stage spiritual power, his true battle prowess was definitely far beyond that of a late-stage ultimate emperor realm cultivator. If Grand Lily were to fight against Zhuowen this time, it would be hard to predict their chances of winning. How is that possible? How did Zhuowen become so strong? Even now, Glen Daffodil was still in disbelief. However, these words came from Glen Lily's mouth. She had no choice but to believe it. Now, she finally realized that she had underestimated Zhuowen all along. Originally, she had thought that Zhuowen was useless in the Grand Lily Society. However, from the looks of it now, the contrast between her imagination and reality was so great that her sister, Grand Lily Society, had actually started to fear Zhuowen. Lily. After 9 days, you must defeat Zhuowen. Father will temporarily hand over the family's spiritual treasure, near-at-hand mirror, for you to refine. You can only win this battle, not lose. Grand Haohai suddenly whispered to Grand Lily. Near-at-hand mirror. Hearing this, Grand Lily's pupils shrank. She stared at Grand Haohai, who had a serious expression on his face. Near-at-hand mirror was the family treasure of the Grand Family. It was a heavenly spiritual treasure that surpassed the earth rank. Its power was extremely terrifying. Moreover, only the family head could use near-at-hand mirror. In order to let the Grand Lily Society win, Grand Haohai even gave such a treasure to Grand Lily. It could be seen that Grand Haohai valued this battle. When the rest of the Grand Family's team heard that Grand Haohai intended to hand over near-at-hand mirror, their expressions changed. However, when they thought of the consequences if the Grand Lily Society lost to Zhuowen, everyone was not surprised. After all, if the Grand Lily Society lost to Zhuowen, then she would have to accept the latter's letter of divorce. Grand Lily, the dignified eldest daughter of the Grand Family, was actually going to be divorced by an unknown family's disciple. This was enough to sweep the Grand Family's reputation to the ground. Grand Haohai would absolutely not allow this to happen. Lily understands. Grand Lily nodded. Her beautiful face also regained its calm expression. If Grand Haohai really handed over near-at-hand mirror to her, she had a very high chance of winning if she really faced Zhuowen this time. Walking out of the Imperial City, Lu Hantian and the rest naturally prepared to return to the Drunken Spring Pavilion. However, when they arrived at the Imperial City's entrance, 2 figures suddenly stopped them. Among the 2 figures, one of them was an amiable-looking old monk. He put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. Beside this old monk stood a young monk with a rosy complexion. This monk was none other than Monk Wu Dang. Old Baldy. What do you mean by this? You actually dare to block our way. Are you looking for me? Lu Hantian frowned slightly and said vigilantly. Hello, almsgiver Lu. This poor monk has no intention of looking for almsgiver Lu. This poor monk is looking for the young almsgiver beside you. The amiable-looking old monk put his palms together and spread out his right hand. He pointed at Zhuowen, who was beside Lu Hantian. Why are you looking for Zhuowen? Lu Hantian frowned slightly and asked puzzledly. This young almsgiver should know why we are looking for him. Young almsgiver, may I have a word with you? The old monk looked at Zhuowen and said with a smile. Staring at the old monk in front of him, Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. Zhuowen naturally knew this old monk's identity. He was Withered Lamp Buddha, the county lord of Shijiang County. From Lu Hantian's attitude, it seemed like he was extremely wary of Withered Lamp Buddha. It seemed like Withered Lamp Buddha wasn't simple. This was the first time Zhuowen saw Lu Hantian show such a vigilant expression. Lu Hantian looked at Zhuowen in surprise. He didn't expect Withered Lamp Buddha to come looking for Zhuowen. Zhuowen's eyes flashed. He knew that Withered Lamp Buddha was looking for him because of the nirvana of the great sun that he revealed in the arena. This cultivation technique was clearly a Buddhist cultivation technique. However, Zhuowen was unsure if Withered Lamp Buddha would deal with an outsider like him if he cultivated in such a Buddhist cultivation technique. Okay. After thinking about it, Zhuowen nodded in agreement and stepped towards Withered Lamp Buddha. Withered Lamp Buddha looked at Zhuowen with clear eyes and a trace of admiration. Almsgiver Zhuowen, I feel a Buddhist affinity from you. Have you ever cultivated a cultivation technique like Nirvana of the Great Sun? Withered Lamp Buddha looked at Zhuowen and asked in a low voice. Yes. I obtained Nirvana of the Great Sun by accident. What does Master think? Zhuowen was still vigilant. Hearing Zhuowen's words, Withered Lamp Buddha's calm eyes suddenly burst out a ray of light with a hint of excitement. It is indeed the long-lost nirvana of the great sun almsgiver Zhuowen. Can you return this cultivation technique to our Buddhist sect? Withered Lamp Buddha suddenly asked. Zhuowen's pupils shrank. Zhuowen had obtained nirvana of the great sun. It was reasonable to say that it belonged to him. Withered Lamp Buddha directly threatened to ask him to give nirvana of the great sun back to Buddhism. Was he, Zhuowen, so stupid? Almsgiver Zhuowen, please don't misunderstand. I am not robbing you. I am making an equivalent exchange. If you can return nirvana of the great sun to Buddhism, I am willing to exchange this sarira. Withered Lamp Buddha also noticed the strange look on Zhuowen's face. He calmly took out an ordinary-looking white stone from his bosom. This white stone was very ordinary. If one looked at it carefully, they wouldn't find anything special about it. They would just think that it was an ordinary stone. However, when Withered Lamp Buddha took out the sarira, Monk Wu Dang's eyes were filled with shock. He looked like he wanted to say something but stopped. Zhuowen's eyes were fixed on the white stone in Withered Lamp Buddha's palm. Zhuowen was naturally familiar with the sarira. On Earth, there were legends of the sarira. According to legend, the sarira was the crystallization of an enlightened monk. It contained the Buddhist power of the enlightened monk and was an immortal existence. What's the use of a stone like this? It doesn't look like anything special. Chapter 752. Conspiracy, Wu Dang, its fate. You know that I don't have much time left. I'm about to pass away. Even if I don't give you the sarira, I won't be able to hold on for long. I'm already satisfied that I can exchange it for the nirvana vairocana. Withered Lamp Buddha put his palms together in front of his chest and smiled. Then, his body started to emit golden light. It was as if Withered Lamp Buddha was covered in a layer of gold. It was dazzling. Pass away. Master. Wu Dang knelt on the ground, looking at Withered Lamp Buddha who was covered in golden light. His eyes were filled with sorrow. Originally, If Withered Lamp Buddha didn't give his Saraira, he could live for a year or so. However, after giving his Saraira to Zhuowen, Withered Lamp Buddha naturally died of old age. Wu Dang. You're very talented. I've never seen anyone like you in my life. It's only a matter of time before you become a Buddha. You might even become a Buddha and reach the realm of Patriarch Bodhidharma. Bring the Nirvana Vairocana back to Shijiang County. I'm sure you can bring our western border Buddhism to greater heights. Also, this benefactor Zhuowen is fated with our Buddhism. Treat him well in the future. After saying that, the Withered Lamp Buddha squinted his eyes and revealed a gentle smile. In the dazzling golden light, he was completely annihilated into nothingness. The only thing left was the neatly folded kasaya and the black spiritual ring on it. Carefully holding the kasaya, Wu Dang chanted the name of Buddha and said firmly, "Master, don't worry. I won't let you down. I will revive the western border Buddhism." Then, Monk Wu Dang put on Withered Lamp Buddha's monastic robe and a pitch-black spiritual ring. He kowtowed to the place where Withered Lamp Buddha had passed away. Then, he resolutely left the imperial capital. The night sky was like a black dragon, slowly accumulating and covering the entire sky. It made this space dark and deadly silent. Occasionally, the stars in the sky would twinkle. In this cold and gloomy night, countless black shadows were ready to make a move. Undercurrents were surging, as if they were brewing an unspeakable conspiracy. In a luxurious pavilion in the imperial city, 3 figures were sitting quietly in the main hall. They didn't say a word, which made the place quiet and quiet. "May I know why the 2 of you are visiting me so late at night?" Finally, the dignified man sitting at the head of the pavilion smiled as he stared at the 2 men below. One of the 2 men was a skinny old man, while the other was a middle-aged man with an extraordinary bearing. Both of them were very powerful, and the aura they emitted seemed to distort the surrounding space. These 2 people were the Chao family's patriarch, Chao Ji, and the Feng family's patriarch, Feng Tian. The dignified man sitting in front of them was actually the Grand family's patriarch, Grand Haohai. "Grand Patriarch, I heard that your Grand Lily has an engagement with that little bastard Zhuowen?" Chao Ji suddenly said in a strange tone. Hearing this, Grand Haohai's pupils constricted as a sliver of displeasure appeared in his eyes. Ever since the Battle of the Peach Blossom origin diagram, Zhuowen had shed all pretense of cordiality and made the marriage contract public. Quite a few people in the imperial capital already knew that Grand Haohai and Zhuowen were engaged. However, not many people knew about it. Only the geniuses and higher-ups of the forces in the imperial capital knew about it. Now that Chao Ji mentioned it, Grand Haohai was naturally unhappy. "What do you mean, Patriarch Chao?" Grand Haohai said coldly. "Patriarch Grand, don't mind it too much. I don't mean anything else. I just think that Zhuowen doesn't deserve Miss Grand Lily." Chao Ji smiled embarrassedly. "Humph. That little bastard Zhuowen is indeed arrogant and conceited. He actually plans to divorce Lily. Who does that little bastard think he is? Does he have the right to divorce Lily?" The more Grand Haohai thought about it, the angrier he got, especially when he thought about how Zhuowen's cultivation was already on par with Grand Lily. He directly slammed his palm on the table beside him. Crack! Under the impact of the huge force, the table shattered into countless pieces of wood that flew in all directions. Feng Tian and Chao Ji looked at each other. They were rather surprised that Grand Haohai would suddenly lose his temper. It seemed like Grand Haohai was also extremely displeased with Zhuowen. After calming down slightly, Grand Haohai said indifferently, "One doesn't visit a temple without a cause. The 2 of you shouldn't have come here tonight to chat and reminisce about old times, right? Patriarch Grand is indeed a smart person. Patriarch Grand should also hate that Zhuowen bitterly. This kid is a lowly disciple, yet he actually dares to be so arrogant and despotic in the imperial capital. He doesn't put our 5 great clans in his eyes at all. If we don't eliminate this kid, How can we show the dignity of our 5 great clans? Feng Tian stared at Grand Hao Hai. His hoarse voice slowly sounded out, and it contained a trace of resentment and killing intent. Hearing this, Grand Hao Hai raised his brows and said, "You all planned to assassinate that Zhuowen?" "Yes. This kid must be eliminated. Otherwise, he will be a future trouble. Patriarch Grand, I presume you also want to get rid of this kid?" Feng Tian continued. "Although that's the case, that fellow, Lu Hantian, exists by Zhuowen's side. Do you think that with just the 3 of us, it's possible to smoothly kill that Zhuowen in the hands of Lu Hantian?" Grand Hao Hai was also somewhat tempted to assassinate Zhuowen. Zhuowen's speed of improvement was too fast. This kid's talent was terrifying. It was even more terrifying than Zhuo Xiaotian back then. Moreover, in the conferred marquee battle 9 days later, Grand Hao Hai didn't have much confidence in Grand Lily going against Zhuowen. Even if he used the near-distance mirror, it would at most increase Grand Lily's chances of victory, and it wouldn't guarantee a 100% victory. Actually, Grand Hao Hai had also thought of eliminating Zhuowen in advance. Unfortunately, he was extremely fearful of that Lu Hantian. After all, that was a powerhouse at the peak of the Empyrean realm. His strength was far from being a match for that powerhouse. Hee. Patriarch Grand, have you forgotten about our Chao family? Our Chao family has the chaotic tripartite array. Although the 3 of us are only at the Golden Venerate realm, if we have the chaotic tripartite array, we can fight against a Empyrean realm powerhouse. Perhaps we aren't a match for that Lu Hantian, but we can still block him for a period of time. During this period of time, that little bastard Zhuowen will be completely eliminated by our family's experts. As long as that Zhuowen is dead, that Lu Hantian won't dare to touch our 5 great families. At this point, Chao Zhi's eyes were filled with viciousness. Ever since Zhuowen had personally killed Chao Yan in the arena, Chao Zhi's resentment towards Zhuowen had seeped deep into his bones. He couldn't wait for Zhuowen to die without a burial place. Chaotic tripartite array. Hearing this, Grand Hao Hai's eyes glowed brightly, and the corners of his mouth curled up. The Chao family's chaotic tripartite array was famous. This array could gather 3 cultivators of the same level. When they joined forces, they could unleash strength that far exceeded that of the same level. It was completely possible to fight someone of a higher level. The 3 patriarchs were all at the Golden Venerate realm. With the chaotic tripartite array, they could unleash the strength of a Empyrean realm powerhouse. It was more than enough to stop that Lu Hantian. This boy's cultivation has risen to the late ultimate 9th Will Emperor realm in the throne room. Coupled with his 5th grade mind power, ordinary ultimate 9th Will Emperors are no match for him. It's best to send out the Xuanzun realm's experts to kill him. Grand Hao Hai's eyes flashed as he spoke. This boy's cultivation has reached the late ultimate 9th Will Emperor realm? How can he be so fast? Feng Tian and Chao Zhi's eyes narrowed as they spoke in disbelief. This is absolutely true. Baihe told me personally. It can't be wrong. Therefore, if we want to completely kill this boy, we can only send out the cultivators of the Xuanzun realm, Grand Hao Hai said coldly. Hearing this, Feng Tian and Chao Zhi revealed a trace of hesitation. Even the 5 great families of the Xuanzun realm didn't have many cultivators. Furthermore, they were basically the mainstays of the family. They couldn't afford to lose them. My Feng family can send out 2 elders of the Xuanzun realm. Feng Tian gritted his teeth and suddenly spoke. Chao Zhi's eyes flashed as he said fiercely, my Chao family can also send out 2 elders of the Xuanzun realm. Grand Hao Hai nodded and said, my grand family can also send out 2 elders of the Xuanzun realm. This time, we must completely kill Zhuowen. We can only succeed. Failure is not an option. Patriarch Grand Hao Hai is right. However, when are we going to do it? Feng Tian suddenly asked. the night before the conferred marquee battle. I want that little bastard Zhuowen to dye the imperial capital in blood and directly disqualify him from participating in the conferred marquee battle. Grand Haohai smiled cruelly. Feng Tian and Chao Ji nodded and said, in that case, let's set it for the night before the conferred marquee battle. Now, let's go back and prepare. Grand Haohai nodded and said, go and prepare. Don't forget about Patriarch Chao's chaotic tripartite array. Patriarch Grand Haohai, don't worry. I won't forget such an important thing. After he finished speaking, Chao Ji and Feng Tian leaped and disappeared into the night sky. Grand Haohai slowly stood up and gazed at Feng Tian and Chao Ji, who'd vanished into the night, and the corners of his mouth revealed a trace of a ruthless expression as he muttered. Zhuowen, don't blame me for being ruthless. All of this is because you didn't know how to appreciate favors. Actually, when he found out that Zhuowen didn't have a dragon soul in his body, Grand Haohai didn't care at all. As long as he took back the marriage certificate, he wouldn't pursue the matter with Zhuowen. Unfortunately, Zhuowen stubbornly insisted on writing the divorce certificate, causing the relationship between the Zhuo family and the Grand family to instantly break down. Therefore, Grand Haohai and Zhuowen made an agreement for the Azure Emperor rankings battle. Originally, Grand Haohai was very confident in the Grand Lily and thought that Zhuowen wouldn't be a match for the Grand Lily. But now, Grand Haohai realized that he was wrong. Zhuowen didn't have a dragon soul in his body, but this terrifying talent had indeed been inherited from Zhuo Xiaotian. His cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, and his strength had increased by a terrifying amount. Now, he was already a threat to the Grand Lily. Therefore, Grand Haohai came up with this plan to completely eliminate Zhuowen from this world. Just as Grand Haohai, Chao Ji, and Feng Tian were plotting, in the drunken spring pavilion, Zhuowen was silently staring at the Saraira in his hand. What a surging Buddhist energy! This Buddhist energy is indeed endlessly beneficial to my Vairocana Nirvana. I wonder what realm my Vairocana Nirvana will reach after absorbing this Saraira's Buddhist energy. Chapter 753. 3 heads and 6 arms. Surging Buddhist power surged out from the Saraira and entered Zhuowen's forehead. It turned into a golden energy and spread throughout Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen felt a warm sensation. Then, he was delighted to find that the Great Nirvana Vairocana cultivation method was accelerating. The surging Buddhist power turned into a golden energy under the Great Nirvana cultivation method. It flowed through the meridians and into the 8 extraordinary meridians, refining Zhuowen's body. Under the nourishment of the Buddhist power, Zhuowen's Great Nirvana cultivation method improved at an even faster speed. His physical body was also strengthening at a speed visible to the naked eye. Time passed slowly. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the room, Zhuowen's body suddenly emitted a cracking sound. Then, a surging golden light surged out. Rumble. In the void behind Zhuowen, a huge 3-headed 3-armed golden giant stepped through the air and turned into a golden light that entered Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. At this moment, his eyes were shining with a golden light, like 2 balls of fire. Creak. Suddenly, 4 golden arms extended from Zhuowen's body. On the other side of his head, 2 golden Buddha heads appeared. They looked exactly like the 3-headed, 6-armed giant. Other than Zhuowen's head, the other 2 heads were Buddha heads. Their squinted eyes were burning with a strange golden flame. They looked very strange. Nirvana Stage 3 of the Great Nirvana Vairocana. Something like this actually happened. Through the bronze mirror in the room, Zhuowen naturally saw his current appearance. He had 3 heads and 6 arms and he was tall. Furthermore, Zhuowen was surprised to discover that the vision and senses of the other 2 Buddha heads were the same as his main body. The other 4 arms that grew out of the heads were like his own arms, and they were exceptionally nimble. In addition, Zhuowen's physical strength, and sensitivity had improved tremendously. Moreover, because of the 3 heads, Zhuowen's perception had increased by more than 3 times. The 3-headed, 6-armed phenomenon formed by the Nirvana Stage 3 of the Great Nirvana Vairocana cultivation method was simply a battle weapon. Zhuowen's combat strength had increased tremendously under such an increase. Now, if I use the Nirvana Vairocana cultivation method, I can derive 6 arms. In other words, I can use 3 different armor techniques and 6 different weapons at the same time. Thinking of this, Zhuowen's eyes revealed a trace of ecstasy. Because he had 6 arms, it meant that Zhuowen could do 3 things at once. He could use 3 armor techniques and 6 weapons at the same time. It should be known that Zhuowen had comprehended the power of concept. If all 6 arms held spears at the same time and erupted with spear intent, the power would be almost 6 times that of Zhuowen's spear. In other words, Zhuowen could increase his current combat strength by more than 6 times in an instant. A full 6 times combat strength. Now that Zhuowen's cultivation was at the late stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm, coupled with the eruption of spear intent, even a peak Ultimate Emperor realm warrior might not be a match for him. He should be able to fight a warrior at the beginning stage of the Xuanzuan realm. However, if Zhuowen used 3 heads and 6 arms, held 6 spears at the same time, and erupted with spear intent, his combat strength would increase by 6 times. His strength would probably be comparable to a warrior at the beginning stage of the Xuanzuan realm. Of course, Zhuowen's estimation was only based on the comparison of ordinary warriors from the Xuanzuan realm. If he faced a terrifying genius from the Xuanzuan realm like Huangfu Wudao, even if his combat strength increased by 6 times, Zhuowen would still lose without a doubt. After all, Huangfu Wudao's armor soul hydra was extremely terrifying. Although Huangfu Wudao had just advanced to the Xuanzuan realm and should be at the beginning stage of the Xuanzuan realm, relying on the terrifying power of the hydra, he probably had the strength to fight a supreme realm warrior. It's time to get 5 more spears for myself. As he muttered to himself, Zhuowen noticed that the sky was already bright. He slowly got up and walked out of the room. He had to find Lu Hantian to discuss the matter of weapons. With Zhuowen's current realm, the weapons he needed naturally had to be Earth-rank spiritual treasures and above. The tyrannical dragon scale spear in his hand was a mid-rank Earth-rank spiritual treasure, and he was still using it quite well. In the hall, Lu Hantian stared at Zhuowen with some astonishment and asked in a strange tone, "You need 5 Earth-rank spears?" "I say, Zhuowen, what do you need so many spears for? You only have 2 hands, so you can only use 2 spears at most, right?" Seeing Lu Hantian's suspicious expression, Zhuowen curled his lips and directly used the nirvana of the great sun instantly. Countless golden rays burst out, and Zhuowen transformed into a 3-headed, 6-armed figure. "Big brother Hantian, as you can see, I cultivate a special body refining technique that allows me to transform into a 3-headed, 6-armed figure. Naturally, I can use 6 spears." Zhuowen stared at Lu Hantian, and his 3 heads spoke at the same time. His voice was loud and clear, and it was so loud that even the deaf could hear it. "You brat! What kind of cultivation technique did you cultivate? How could it be so strange, to actually be able to turn yourself into a 3-headed, 6-armed being?" Lu Hantian supported his forehead with his right hand and muttered to himself speechlessly. Zhuowen shrugged his shoulders and immediately withdrew the great sun nirvana, returning to his original state. He said, "Now you know why I need 5 spears, right? Your body refining technique seems to be very powerful. This is the first time I've seen a martial warrior's transform into a 3-headed, 6-armed figure. Don't worry, your big brother is an Empyrean after all, and I just happen to have a few spears on me." As he spoke, Lu Hantian flicked his finger, and a ray of light flew out from his spirit ring. Immediately, 5 spears with radiant light appeared under his feet. These 5 spears are all low-grade Earth-rank spirit treasures. Just make do with them first. Although your big brother has a higher grade spirit treasure, the highest grade of spear type is only this low-grade Earth rank. Lu Hantian scratched his head, and his voice seemed to be a little embarrassed. Ha! It's enough. In the future, I'll go find 5 high-grade spears myself. These 5 spears will make do with them, and we'll talk about it after the conferred marquee battle. Zhuowen nodded. With a wave of his right hand, the 5 spears under his feet were all kept into the spirit ring. Zhuowen, what are your chances of winning the conferred marquee battle this time? Suddenly, Lu Hantian asked seriously. Zhuowen was stunned, and then said with a smile, if I don't meet Huangfu Wudao in advance, I have a 90% chance. Oh. You have such a high chance of winning. Qing Yan of Azure Dragon Subsidiary Palace is not simple. Can you beat him? Zhuowen's answer made Lu Hantian raise his eyebrows and ask in surprise. Qing Yan is indeed very strong. If he broke through to the Xuanzuan realm, I might not be his opponent, but he didn't, so I have a 60% chance of beating him. Before the Nirvana realm breakthrough, Zhuowen didn't have much chance of beating Qing Yan, but the breakthrough of the Nirvana realm allowed him to have 3 heads and 6 arms, and his battle strength increased by 6 times. He was confident that he could beat Qing Yan. It's good that you are confident. Then I won't disturb your cultivation. I am looking forward to your performance in the conferred marquee battle in 6 days. If you can really enter the top 3 and be conferred marquee by His Majesty Emperor Qing, our Muqin County will really bask in your glory. Lu Hantian didn't question Zhuowen's words. He knew Zhuowen's character very well. Zhuowen wasn't the kind of person who was blindly confident and arrogant. Since he said such words, it meant that Zhuowen was indeed very confident in winning the conferred marquee battle this time. After speaking, Lu Hantian left the hall, and Zhuowen returned to the courtyard where his room was. Now he wanted to try if he could display the power of 6 Dao concepts with 6 spears in his 3 heads and 6 arms state. In a rather remote courtyard, there was no one around, and it was quiet and secluded. Chapter 754. Ambush in the Dark Night Rumble. Another bolt of lightning as thick as a water bucket streaked across the sky, illuminating the pitch-black rainy night for a moment before it turned eerily dark once more. The surroundings were deathly silent. Only the pitter-patter of rain could be heard. However, the ominous premonition in Zhuowen's heart grew even stronger. It was as if someone was watching him in the dark. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Suddenly, the sound of air being torn apart rapidly swept over from the rainy night sky. It was as if dark clouds were gathering, adding a trace of mystery to the rainy night. Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He was shocked to discover that the final destination of the figures shuttling through the rainy night was the drunken spring pavilion that he resided in. They were coming menacingly. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Instantly, the courtyard that Zhuowen resided in was surrounded by dozens of people. These people were all dressed in black and wore ghost masks on their faces. They're all ultimate 9-will emperor experts. Zhuowen's pupils shrank as he looked at the dozens of black-clothed people surrounding the courtyard. With his sharp senses, how could he not sense the auras of these black-clothed people? Moreover, there were 6 figures with even more terrifying auras standing proudly in the air in front of these black-clothed people. These 6 figures were dressed in long black robes and had slightly stooped backs. They should be elders who were rather old. The auras of these 6 elders were much more terrifying. Looking at these 6 elders, Zhuowen's gaze became much more serious. These 6 elders were actually all experts from the Xuanzuan realm. What a big move. They had actually sent dozens of ultimate 9-will emperor experts and 6 Xuanzuan realm experts just to kill Zhuowen. Who are you people? Standing quietly in the rain, Zhuowen raised his head and stared at the 6 elders in front of him. His voice was cold and emotionless. We're the people who will kill you. At the front of the 6 elders was an elder with a pair of triangular eyes. His eyes narrowed as he spoke sinisterly. Zhuowen's heart sank when he heard this. Although he had already guessed it, he was still a little shocked when he heard the old man's words. To send such a lineup to kill him, Zhuowen had truly exceeded his expectations. Who sent you? Zhuowen asked coldly. He. What's the use of asking a person who is about to die? When you die, you can go to hell and ask the king of hell. The triangular-eyed old man laughed coldly, and then he waved his right hand and continued, all of you go and kill this kid in one go. Yes. Dozens of Ultimate 9 Wills Emperor Realm men in black responded in unison. Then, they rushed towards Zhuowen, who was in the courtyard. Their teamwork was extremely good. Elder Fu, don't you think the 3 patriarchs are being too cautious? To send the 6 of us to kill this kid, aren't they making a mountain out of a molehill? An elder with a ruddy complexion asked the triangular-eyed old man. The triangular-eyed old man called Elder Fu shook his head and said, this Zhuowen is not simple. The 3 patriarchs sent the 6 of us this time because they want to be absolutely sure that we can kill this kid here. The ruddy-faced elder frowned slightly when he heard this. He still felt that it was a little excessive for the 3 clan heads to send out 6 Mystique Venerables to kill a mere late-stage Ultimate 9 Will Emperor Realm martial artist. Just a few dozen Ultimate 9th Will Emperor Realm cultivators working together would be enough to completely obliterate this kid. After all, no matter how heaven-defying this kid is, he's only an Ultimate 9 Wills Emperor Realm cultivator. There's no need for the 6 of us to act at all. Another old man with a short stature suddenly spoke, and his gaze was filled with disdain as he glanced at Zhuowen. It's best not to be careless. After all, the 3 patriarchs attach great importance to this assassination mission. There's absolutely no room for error, Elder Fu said coldly with a slight frown. The other old men fell silent when they heard Elder Fu's words. Elder Fu was the strongest among the 6 of them. He was one step away from advancing to the Xuanzuan realm intermediate stage. He was slightly stronger than the 5 of them, so they basically followed Elder Fu's lead. Whoosh! 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 Black shadows instantly surrounded Zhuowen like demons and monsters in the night. Dozens of Ultimate 9 Wills Emperor Realm cultivators immediately surrounded Zhuowen so tightly that not even a drop of water could pass through. Kill! Kill! The deafening battle cries immediately whistled out from the dozens of cultivators around them. They were like muffled thunder that exploded out of nowhere. It was so deafening that even the apathetic could hear them. Looking at the dozens of cultivators surrounding him, Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. Surging mind power surged out, and rays of cold light swept out from his spirit ring. The infinite sword formation immediately revolved slowly with Zhuowen at its center. Bang! 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 The dozens of Ultimate 9 Wills Emperor Realm cultivators attacked at the same time. The weapons in their hands flashed with extremely dazzling cold light in the rainy night. It was breathtaking. The sound of metal clashing could be heard from the periphery of the greater infinite sword formation. In the blink of an eye, the weapons of the dozens of martial artists had clashed with the greater infinite sword formation dozens of times. Each time, terrifying sparks flew out. It's just as the Patriarch said. He actually possesses grade 5 mind power. With the infinite sword formation, I'm afraid it'll be difficult to take down Zhuowen in a short period of time. Looking at Zhuowen, who was surrounded by the infinite sword formation, Elder Fu frowned. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes. He was also surprised that Zhuowen could cultivate his mind power to grade 5 at such a young age. His talent was not ordinary. It was no wonder that the 3 patriarchs had arranged such a large formation to deal with Zhuowen. When the other 5 elders saw Zhuowen use the greater limitless sword formation, their eyes more or less revealed shock. They also understood the intentions of the 3 patriarchs in their hearts. Who dares to cause trouble in my place? A loud shout suddenly whistled out from one of the garrets in the Drunken Spring Pavilion. The terrifying sound waves were like rolling thunder, constantly hovering above the drunken spring pavilion and rumbling. A figure flew out like a bird. A terrifying aura suddenly burst out from the figure's body. It had the power to suppress mountains. When the figure appeared, the expressions of the 6 elders changed drastically. Their bodies could not help but tremble. What a terrifying aura! This should be Lu Hantian from Muqin County, a heavenly venerate expert. Elder Fu's eyes flickered and his body trembled when he saw Lu Hantian rushing over. The 6 of them were only from the Xuanzun realm. In the eyes of a heavenly venerate expert like Lu Hantian, they were as insignificant as ants. However, they stood motionless in the sky above the courtyard. They only quietly watched Lu Hantian rush over. How dare you try to kill Zhuowen right under my nose? All of you deserve to die. With Lu Hantian's cultivation and realm, he could see from afar that Zhuowen was surrounded by dozens of ultimate Nine-Will Emperor realm experts. His eyes were filled with shock and anger. Rumble. Just as Lu Hantian was about 100 meters away from the courtyard, 3 figures suddenly flew out from below like shooting stars. They split into 3 directions and intercepted Lu Hantian. The 3 figures cooperated very well. At the same time, a huge formation diagram appeared above the 3 of them. The diagram in the center of the formation diagram was a patch of white chaos. Terrifying energy faintly spread out from it. The formation diagram emitted 3 rays of white light. They were like chains that connected the 3 figures, allowing the 3 of them to unleash an extremely terrifying power. The Chao family's chaotic tripartite formation. Lu Hantian, who was instantly trapped in the formation, immediately recognized the formation before him. His eyes were filled with coldness. When Lu Hantian's gaze landed on the 3 figures that had suddenly appeared, the chilling aura around him became even more intense, almost as if it had taken on a physical form. Chao Ji, Feng Tian, and Grant Haohai. The 3 of you are really something. You actually used such a despicable method to kill Zhuowen. Lu Hantian stared at the 3 figures outside the chaotic tripartite formation as he muttered to himself. The coldness on his face became more and more intense. As 3 of the 5 great families of the imperial capital province, the 3 of them were actually so shameless as to send people to kill a junior like Zhuowen. It was truly despicable. Brother Lu is mistaken. The Feng clan's Feng Yong and the Chao clan's Chao Ji were both killed by this little bastard, Zhuowen. What we're doing now is merely settling our grudges, so how is it despicable? After all, a life for a life is a matter of course. Grant Haohai stood outside the chaotic tripartite formation with his hands behind his back. He stared at Lu Hantian, who was within the formation. Victory was in his grasp. A life for a life. Grant Haohai, can you speak any more shamelessly? Whether it is Chao Ji or Feng Yong, they both want to kill Zhuowen. Since they want to kill Zhuowen, they should be prepared to be killed instead. Who can they blame if they die? As seniors, the 3 of you actually attacked a junior together. Do you even have any shame left? Lu Hantian asked coldly. We want Zhuowen to die. Moreover, we want him to die in an ugly manner. No matter what you say, you will not be able to change the fact that Zhuowen is dead. You should just stay in the chaotic tripartite formation for a while and see how that little bastard Zhuowen dies. Chao Ji grinned. His face was filled with cruelty and coldness. The 3 of you are courting death. Do you really think that this chaotic tripartite formation can stop me, Lu Hantian? Lu Hantian's eyes darkened. With a wave of his sleeve, countless blood chi suddenly burst out from his body and formed countless blood-colored spear shadows around him. At this moment, Lu Hantian immediately used his best spear intent. Moreover, it was a spear intent that had reached the peak of perfection. Boom! 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 Countless blood-colored spear shadows overflowed and bombarded the surrounding chaotic tripartite formation. With a rumbling sound, the chaotic tripartite formation, which looked abnormally sturdy, actually began to tremble violently. Grant Haohai, Chao Ji, and Feng Yong were shocked. They quickly shouted, "The three of us will join forces to maintain the chaotic tripartite formation. Don't let Lu Hantian break through this chaotic tripartite formation." They were very clear about how terrifying Lu Hantian was. If they really let Lu Hantian escape from the chaotic tripartite formation, the three of them were no match for Lu Hantian. At that time, they could only run for their lives. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.